guys? Welcome to another episode of Cleveland Moto Podcast, episode number 374. Yes. Look at that. That was a very wet out. Oh, my God. You need a bib over there.
Yeah.
Both of you. And freaking death by coconut over here on my left.
Yeah, oh shit.
Way to be tropical.
Only one of those three had alcohol.
Is it off the sauce?
Only one of those three had alcohol.
Off the sauce.
Yeah, this is truly like an off the sauce cast right now because, I've had a Christmas ale because why not? It's May.
Right.
And that was delicious, by the way.
Yeah.
Great Lakes Brewing Company's Christmas ale in the middle of May. It was perfect. I know McElfresh isn't just drinking Mountain Dew over there.
Mountain Dew is actually made to be a mixer with bourbon.
And you got Jepson's.
One of the most fantastic bourbons I've never tasted.
The Jepson's is the company that brought you Malort. In other words, these pants won't shit themselves. AKA, Dad, I always hated you.
This takes me back to drinking Dad's Seagrams and Sevens.
Yeah. So I went to Chicago over the weekend for the Midwest Classic Scooter Rally Windy City Edition, and it's all vintage only. So no bikes that aren't vintage. And in the spirit of Cleveland Moto, I bought my bike 45 minutes northwest of Chicago on Friday.
Nice.
So I bought a 1974 Vespa Sprint Veloce. A friend of mine in Berlin, his name is Amir, has a penchant, or a fetish, I guess you'd say, for the Allstate branded Vespa scooters. So every time I happen to wander upon an Allstate scooter, and Oscar has a 59? 58 Allstate. So every time I wander upon an Allstate scooter in some state of disrepair, I grab it. And then I know that if I contact Amir, that he'll usually be like, "Oh, Phil, I would like that very much. Can we ship it to England or Germany?" And I'm like, "Well, of course we can, because that's what we do here." And so he's been a really good customer, a reliable customer for a long time. Well, with the cost of freight being out of control right now, Amir had bought this Sprint Veloce in Chicago, sort of not sight unseen, but just over the internet. But the cost of freighting it to Germany would have been more than he paid for the bike.
Yeah.
So he goes, "Phil, you got to help me out. This thing's stuck at a freight handler's outside of Chicago. Buy this bike." And I'm like, I don't normally pay that much for Vespas because I'm me. But it was, only had 2,400 miles on it. Had a significant amount of garage rash. Hasn't fired a shot in anger in about 5 years. So you're taking your chances. So I took my toolkit with me and picked it up and had to battle my way through Chicago traffic to get back to the Rally Hotel. But spent about an hour on it. And it ran the entire fucking rally.
Nice.
Almost.
Almost.
So it made it all the way back. Well, the fuel tap was really jammed up. And the fuel tap, I didn't want to move it around too much because I had the feeling every time I rotated the fuel tap, it was taking another sample of rubber from the inside of the fuel tap and depositing it in my fuel line. Yep. So I was leaving the fuel tap in the open position on quite a warm day. And what it ended up happening was it ended up flooding a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And so after our hot dog stop at Skyway hot dogs, well, that was enough for it to fill the bottom of the motor up with gasoline. So when I kick-started it, it shot gasoline out the tailpipe. And we had gone to the Pullman Museum, which is a museum of American rail industry. Quite a great museum. Really cool museum. And we'd gone to the Pullman Museum, and after the Pullman Museum, the whole group, and this is a vintage-only ride, so everything is vintage. And being that these are my friends, and they all know how vintage bikes can be cranky, they all left me there. They all fucking left. They all just straight up left. They're like, "Well, Phil can handle it. Whatever it is, it's fine." That's that overabundance of confidence that you achieve. Yeah. So they abandoned me, and there was a collection of Model A and Model T enthusiasts at the Pullman Museum that day. Mm-hmm. So all these older than shit white men were hanging around, their Model A's and Model T's. And my friends all left. So I decided, what do I got to do? Well, this thing's not kickstarting under its own power. I'm going to bump start it, which I already got my gear and I got my helmet on. It's about 85 degrees. So I'm doing it in the running, jumping, bumping start. But I'm doing it right in front of all these old men. And after my fourth or fifth bump start, I realized this thing's not going anywhere. So I'm going to have to pull the spark plug. And I brought a spare spark plug with me because I'm not an idiot. And so I'm doing the spark plug thing. Got the side panel off, doing the spark plug shimmy. And these men all got activated. And it was like when you're in the zombie apocalypse and somebody speaks louder than a whisper. And all the zombie...
Vintage.
Two-stroke. And so
I had one of those.
these guys were all activated. They all became activated. They left their folding camp chairs, and they fell on me like a tasty fucking old country buffet. And... oh my God. And I'm trying to just do my thing. And, I got all the gear on, so I'm a little emotional.
One of those.
Yeah. Oh boy. And so I'm like, look, I'm taking out a spark plug. I'm putting in a new spark plug. That's it. Game on. So my trick is I take the spark plug out that we know is flooded. I throw that in my toolbox. I grab the new spark plug. And I take the new spark plug and I put the new spark plug on and I hook it to the high tension lead, but I don't put it in the hole. I set it next to the hole. And then I give it a few kicks. And then it burns off all the extra gas, which looks cool, sounds cool, and is remarkably effective. Well, these old guys are like, and everybody had an opinion. And meanwhile, I was just ignoring them. I just pretended like I didn't hear English, right? And so it was great. And so I just kind of got the thing together and put the new spark plug in, as it is. First kick, bam, she fires right up. I make it. And the ride went on the ride because it's vintage bikes. So they take all the not freeway roads in Chicago. But I got to catch it.
Yeah.
And we're going out to this part of Chicago called like Wolf Bay Road or something, which is literally, if you guys have ever left Chicago and you're on your way to something east of Chicago, and you're driving out of Chicago and you look to your right and you're like, that's really weird. There's this nature preserve on my right-hand side. And on my left-hand side is Hammond, Indiana, and all the oil processing refineries and everything else. So you're like, on my left is modern diesel gasoline processing centers and very not environmentally friendly. But on my right, motherfuckers are fishing. And there's baby ducks running around and stuff. You're like, so there's an EPA protection area to my right. And to my left... well, Darren, our friend Darren from Chicago, had made this beautiful ride, and he added to the ride this point, this like little tributary of land that popped out in the middle of this water that you shouldn't be able to go there. And we took all the scooters out there, and we were actually at a point where there was a fence, a chain link fence between us and Indiana. That's kind of cool. And so we were there. Well, but I had to meet them there. So I just decided, fuck it. I can't catch up with these guys back alley Sally and figure out the 97 right-hand turns that they took to get there. So I was like, screw it. I talked to my watch, and my watch said, get on Interstate 94. So I thought, that seems like a good idea on a Sprint Veloce that I've owned for like 29 hours.
It just flooded.
That was super flooded. So I jumped on the freeway. The bike did great. So I hauled ass on the freeway, got the 4 or 5 exits I had to go, pulled off by the Ford plant, went all the back, went the roads, and I actually caught them before they got into the park area.
Nice.
I was very proud of myself, and they were like, "How'd you do that?" And I said, "Freeway," and they went, "Dumbass." So there you go. So I mean, I wasn't passing anybody. I was in the slow lane, but it was still very fun. But then at the hot dog place, Skyway hot dogs. Had a hot dog that couldn't be beat, but went out and kicked it, and she just shot gas out the tailpipe. So she wasn't going anywhere. Tried one bump start, put it on the sag wagon, got to sit the rest of the ride out in air conditioning from that point back to the hotel. It was pretty nice. I got to say, love it. Sitting with my friend Brian Coppin and my friend Kathy Anderson, just enjoying life, listening to metal.
Nice.
And best part of the ride, by far, was the bike sitting on the Kendon in the back. How do you know you're at a scooter rally where there's adults?
Kendon.
5 Kendon trailers. And they're stacked up like playing cards against the wall in the hotel. 5 Kendon trailers. That's how you know you're with adults.
That's fun.
Yeah, super. I was a Kendon trailer rally. But it was great. I got rally asshole, even though I think Dan Hostick should have won it.
Oh, yeah.
Dan Hostick closed out our night at karaoke by singing Spinal Tap's Big Bottom. Now, right now, I would like you all to stop listening to the podcast, go to YouTube, and play Spinal Tap's Big Bottom. Big Bottom. Talk about mud flaps. My girl's got them. Mm-hmm. My baby
like
fits
that
me.
gyro.
My baby fits me like a flesh tuxedo.
Yeah.
I'd like to sink her with my pink torpedo. Have that stuck in your head for 4 days. It's not a life I would wish on anybody, but that's it. So that was super cool, fun time. That was the trip, and I got the Sprint Veloces back here.
Nice.
Took the spark plug out. Put a new spark plug in it. What do you think it did?
Fired right
I
up.
ran like a son of a bitch. So if I'd have done that at Skyway Hot Dogs, we'd have been we wouldn't have been on the sag wagon, but I wouldn't have had that air conditioning either. So cool. So that was all fun and games. So to my immediate left,
Oscar.
and Oscar got here early today and spent an hour and a half doing cable management on our table.
Nice job. Very nice.
And you know what I've noticed is my headphones sound better too. There's not a squeak or a pop or a snap anywhere in this system.
No snarl.
And then to his left,
Oh, Steve Sleepy.
Sleepy has embraced what I'd like to call Dante's seventh layer of hell, prepping bikes, with a toe that should have been amputated at least a week ago.
Yeah. No, that's terrible.
Sleepy?
Smells like almonds.
Okay. So
Looks like an almond.
our shop...
We didn't talk about because we didn't have a podcast last
Exactly.
week. Yeah.
So Sleepy... Well, we're going to do introductions first, but then
Okay.
we're going to get back to that. And to his immediate left,
Chris Smith.
and to his immediate left,
Dan KROMKE.
to his immediate left,
Johnny Mac.
and to his immediate left.
Steve HOFFERT.
And look at you. You're in summertime mode.
Yeah.
You're all like groomed and like you look like summertime.
I had to go to a council meeting on Monday night.
Corporate Steve.
I was only asking for $210,000.
That's all.
That's why he cleaned up.
It might be worth a shower for that.
Yeah, I had to fix another thing John broke.
So at this
You know, Cinch was wondering if Grumpy Sore Douche was going to show up tonight.
I didn't even know there's going to be a podcast because there's no texting about it. So
I texted this morning.
I must not get people's texts. So.
Yeah, you know, because you're not.
You
Like,
have a flip phone. That's why.
I'll have.
I'm sorry. Can we reset it for Jitterbug?
I have the best Samsung.
That is
Whatever.
a very big looking Samsung. Yeah.
That's a brick.
That is a
You
brick.
got a little pen that you can write on.
Wow.
Oh, it's the 22.
I don't know what I'm going to use it for,
But in the hands of a child,
picking the wax out of my ears or something.
Right?
It's got its own backpack.
It does.
the greatest phone in the world in the hands of a child means nothing.
If you demonstrate.
Ooh.
You know, the best thing about this phone is it's got 100-to-1 zoom.
What?
Yeah,
It's
that's
got 100-to-1
100
zoom.
to 1 zoom.
It's unbelievable. The phone's camera is unbelievable. And the reason I got that one is because when I'm in New York,
You gotta
I
be
always
able to-
see these loons.
Oh.
And I can never get a good picture of the loon. I'm trying to like get my phone in the binoculars, holding it
I
up
thought
like
it was
this.
so you'd be able to see Meckelfresh on his Versus when he's running away from you on your.
When he's way behind and I
twin.
see where he is.
It's like when I'm at work, I always see this loon.
This one loon. Yeah.
Best bird ever.
It is
stars.
stars.
Spirit animal.
Hey, I gave my wife 4 stars for a meal the other night.
What'd you have?
COVID.
No, it was,
COVID and cheese.
she made burritos, and
Wow.
I thought they were going to be this standard mediocre burrito, but they were exceptionally good. So they beat my expectations by 1 star.
So they were 4-star
flour
burrito.
or corn.
How do you tell the difference?
Well, flour looks
my
like
God.
flour's white, corn's yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cough into it.
Yeah. Corn's yellow, white's flour. Yeah, you're good to go.
Flour. Okay.
Hey, flour.
All right.
Yeah.
I approve.
Yeah. I get it.
Steve, can I get you a glass of ice? I'm trying this bourbon here.
Did you bring it?
Phil actually brought
Hey,
it.
you know what?
I'm
I
having
will-
some with Mountain
and
Dew.
if you're flying, I'll buy. So if you want to set me up a glass and ice and a little bit of bourbon, I'll take it. I just don't want to leave the command chair at this point.
You want a ball or
A ball would be nice.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of balls in there.
I got a whole lot of balls.
All right. Looks like Chris Smith is
Forgot
on.
about that one.
Exit stage left, even.
Is that potentially one of my son's scooters?
Which one?
One of these new
Oh, the
Yes.
Nui?
Yeah, they all came in today. We're going to talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to talk a lot about the news or news. What's all the news with Gary News?
Yeah.
Yeah. The
And also arguably the strongest fucking rack
We're-
ever,
yeah.
ever
you know what?
made.
I've seen some nice racks in my life, but I've never seen such a healthy rack.
No.
Yeah, the
It's super
Chinese
stiff.
the Chinese have now made the firmest rack I've ever laid my
Ever.
eyes on. Yeah, by far.
What, on these things?
Oh my God, you have no idea.
Nice.
We'll
What's the-
discuss.
yeah,
We'll
yeah,
discuss
yeah,
it.
yeah.
We'll discuss it. It's a podcast topic. What the shit is going on there?
I'll take it.
Oh, he's got an ice ball in there. He's good to go. He'll take it.
Good to go.
Oh, yeah. The hovering ice ball. The trick with the ice balls is to serve it in a glass the ice ball can't hit the bottom in,
Right.
and then try to bury the ice with bourbon.
Yeah.
You're going to kill a man with that.
No, but the podcast
You're
gets more
going to be able to
interesting.
got to kill it, cover the ice ball. Yeah. How come that's 6 ounces of high-powered booze in there? Because that's 100 proof. So
What did you want?
I'll take just one of those, and I'll pour my own
ball?
liquor.
The ball.
Yeah, ball, please. Yeah, give me an ice ball. Still haven't figured out who sent us all that Glenn Morangi shit.
No, yeah,
Don't
we never
know.
figured
Don't
that
Phil
out.
says that one down there is like a really nice old fashioned, which I might
this
try that
one-
once
so
I.
This one right here is basically the nicest old fashioned you've ever had with one ingredient.
Yeah.
And that's the single barrel Jepson's Malort.
They're discussing
No,
booze.
Single barrel
You probably
Jepson's
can't hear
Malort.
this. Yeah.
And that's actually like this.
Phil
shit
is explaining
I'm gonna
what all the
explain it.
booze that
Hold
we
on, I
have.
wanna read the can. Okay, so here we go. Jepson's Bourbon. Check this out. This is their small batch business, a single barrel. And this is barrel number F4. 63.63
It's in hex.
63.35% alcohol volume, and they do the math for you. That's 126.7 proofs.
Kafoof.
This is not fucking around if you are in the people who fuck around category. But again, the sign of a good bourbon. Screw top.
Yeah.
Screw
Yeah.
top.
Yeah,
all
boy.
the best bourbons have a screw top. So I'm going to follow the Dan KROMKE rule. I'm just going to pour myself a splash, and I'm going to let it sit for at least 5 minutes. This is the single barrel. That's the blend over on the other end, both from Jepson's.
That's the old fashioned.
And then please open that. Yeah, that's the slow and low. That's something Brian Bedell introduced me to this weekend. And I got to say, for a one ingredient beverage, just open that fucker up and pour it into your glass of ice, and you will have an old fashioned. A pretty respectable old fashioned, which just proves that one ingredient can get the job done.
Yeah.
It's childproof, so Steve can open it over there.
I'll let him play with it for a while. Would you like a knife?
Everybody's
Steve?
forgetting that
There
this
you
is
go,
a
you go.
podcast and nobody's talking into mics.
I know,
Steve's
right?
over here
Right,
talking
you're walking
there,
around.
you're-
You got the best fucking high-powered audio system.
I
in
mean,
the
you can
world.
always narrate. You can narrate.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
We're good, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks to Chris Franklin, we got
Steve
good,
snipping the cap.
good quality shit.
Don't
Steve's
spill
now
it on
handing the
board.
bottle to
Don't spill
Oscar.
it on the board. All right.
Oscar has the bottle.
The bottle's
Oscar's opening the bottle.
Opening the bottle.
He's pouring the bottle into his
So
drink.
while Oscar's doing that, I want Sleepy to explain to the audience why he's been infirmed for the past 2 weeks.
Well, a couple weeks ago, leaving here and riding home on my Triumph, I was taking the long way home, and a truck cut in front of me I was doing about 80, and the truck was doing 85, and he hit a broken piece of tailpipe that then shot at another 100 miles an hour toward me.
Right, yeah.
So then I kind of moved my bike over, and then it proceeded to hit me directly in the toes at like 85 miles an hour plus whatever it was moving at. And my eyes, it went from like being in a helmet to being in a fishbowl.
Did you think that you had actually just at that moment lost your toes?
I didn't know I had a foot.
Oh,
I was
wow.
really, I couldn't, and then I just pulled the clutch in and just kind of went to the side of the
It
road.
was, I mean, what that is for anybody that's shrapnel.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
what that is that's a big honking piece of shrapnel
Yep.
traveling at your foot at over 100 miles per hour. You know,
and I did have motorcycle boots on. I think that's why I still have toes.
right.
If it was a sneaker, I don't think that I'd have a foot right now.
Right.
But so I got to the side of the road and I looked down and I'm like, well, I'm not going to open the boot because if there is some really bad damage, I don't want it falling apart or doing something.
Swelling.
So
Dropping out
I
onto the
actually tightened it on the side. I pulled it tighter to kind of hold everything together.
Or you might not be able to get your boot back on. either.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, for real.
So I got back on the bike and then was like, shit, that's my shifting foot.
Oh, no.
And so I had to side foot it. You know,
Oh,
like
yeah,
how you
yeah,
have to
right.
side
Oh, yeah,
foot, like, you know, and get it to shift.
stump.
Yeah, the
shimmy.
stump.
Yeah, the stump.
And every time I hit a bump or anything, it was just horrible. So when I got home, it was not good. I took the boot off.
Oh, bloody.
And I mean, there's pictures on my Facebook. It was just not good. And the fact that I still have a toenail somehow,
Yeah, that's
I don't
weird.
know if it's
Oh,
gonna
it's
survive.
coming off.
Yeah, it's not
That
good.
takes some time.
There's definitely some bad stuff. But anyways, yeah, it hurt. And then, so then I decided just to come to work here, or I mean, volunteer here. And within 5 minutes, I had put 3 kickstands on top of it throughout the day. I made like a pretty good Jackson Pollock at one point. It was just like, and so Renee's making fun of me saying, well, if you decide to explode your toe again, please don't do it by this bike because it's white and it's going to stain it. So yeah, it's been an adventure, and it's still not healed. It's been a week and a half, and things aren't getting much better. So yeah, that's the toe. It's not good.
Now, the part of the story that nobody else here can appreciate is the noises that Steve makes.
Oh no.
Okay? So if you worked here and, you know, let's just say you're a mild-mannered customer that is maybe in here trying to spend, you know, something in the neighborhood of, you know, $10,000 to $12,000 maybe. And over in the corner of the shop you hear,
Was he wearing a trench coat?
But the thing is, he's on the ground. So
I was almost passed out.
You can't
man.
see him.
just
You
hear
have
the
no
noises,
idea.
yeah.
You just hear the noises. And it's like we got a phantom fucking joke, like a ghost in here jacking off in the corner. Right? It's like literally you look over in the area where the sounds of like bad fucking is coming from, and you look over in the corner, there's nobody there. Just a bunch of bikes.
Are you
And you're
sure
like,
that toe's not an excuse? Probably. It really isn't. He just got makeup on it.
I wish. that
He's
was
just
the
laying
case.
in the corner doing
Fake
it.
toes.
fake toes. It is. I'm not kidding that it looks awful. And so he's been wearing one shoe and one.
Prosthetic.
What do they
foot.
call those things?
It was a cut up croc.
A croc. So he's wearing one shoe and one croc. And now I have to tell you, if I were in that position, I would be wearing a motorcycle flat tracking steel boot.
I couldn't get my foot into a shoe.
No, I would have already made a motorcycle flat tracking steel boot. Because the number of times that you have accidentally stubbed your toe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but like a normal human being stubs their toe, you're like, oh, I stubbed my toe. But when you stub a toe with what you got going on,
Yeah, it's bad.
there's literal pus
and blood.
and blood.
Yeah.
And that would happen to me none times, and I would already have a steel boot.
But you know what? I'm confident that I could get shot now and I'd be okay.
Right, and that's true. Right. Yeah. Some people say the most painful experience in the world is giving birth to a child.
No.
And based on what I've heard, the auditory signature from Steve's mouth hole, I'm going to tell you that no, in fact, the most painful thing is Steve's toe.
Well, it was the second day, though. The second day when I fucking exploded it on a kickstand.
Yeah.
That was worse than the initial injury.
Fair game.
So, so is that going to be the thumbnail for the?
No,
podcast?
no, we don't want to lose any. We can. I can send a picture.
Oh, we've seen the picture. Don't worry about it. Oh,
no, that's not my foot.
Yeah.
Are you going to put it on the big TV?
I'm going to put it on the big TV. if you
That's
don't
not
mind,
my
right?
foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's slightly worse.
Trigger
than
warning.
My foot.
Nice trigger
Run to
warning.
your safe space now.
So I picked my friend up off the freeway, and two of her toes were lightly attached by flesh in the bottom of her New Balance type or Asics type running shoe after her motorcycle crash. You can see where the asphalt took the toenail polish off her big toe and her number 3 toe. And the best we could do, or the best the surgeons could do,
Well, where's number 4?
went to market.
Number 5.
Wee, all the way home.
Crazy part is that, didn't they start with 6?
This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed home. This little piggy had roast beef, and these little piggies decided to go to an entirely different foot because they were. But anyway,
Part of the road.
They're in the side of the road.
But here's for the people who are paying attention at home and are watching the video. This is Renee's foot a couple of hours after she had a motorcycle crash and erased her foot. Now that was originally open. The top of that foot was open, and I could see all the bones in her foot like a typewriter, like looking in the top of an old typewriter. And I'm the one that had to sign the authorization for amputation.
Oh,
Now, you may think you know a friend pretty good, but have you ever signed an authorization for amputation for your friend? Because I have.
That's a special bond.
That's a special bond right there. But this piece of flesh that's on her foot right there, that's a skin graft.
Yeah.
And they took the skin graft with the cheese grater, the electric cheese grater machine. They took the skin graft off her thigh. And you're going to notice there's some strange pigment there. There's some strange ink. Well, that's because they took the skin graft
from her tattoo.
and ran it into her tattoo. So they relocated some of her tattoo from her thigh to her foot.
Why?
Because they're stupid. No, they're surgeons. I don't know. They don't care. But they could have taken the skin graft an inch lower.
Right.
But instead, they took it where they took it and actually botched her fucking tattoo. So after the surgery, Renee has a tattoo on her
I
foot
was
she
gonna
never
say,
paid for.
I didn't even know she had a tattoo to begin with.
Not too shabby, right? I was there the day when Renee got her foot tattooed.
Yeah.
There you go. But also, she had to go back to her tattoo artist and get her tattoo fixed.
But you know what's crazy?
Yeah.
Like, so people are getting their tattoos blacked out now.
Yeah.
This will probably
Nice.
be the next thing. Like rearranging your tattoos. Like
Relocating your
I want my
tattoos?
arm on my leg and
Exactly.
my leg on my arm.
What do you mean blacked out?
People, like, they're literally blacking their whole arms out.
Yeah, you see people with a whole black leg or a whole black arm.
Black, just like
What's
that.
the point of that?
Reparations. Sorry, man. Sorry.
Yeah, better you than me.
It's a little too soon on that.
I don't know. Anyway, at least one person thought it was funny. Everyone else unsubscribed. So, anywho, all of us today, every single one of us sitting at the table today, got to ride what I'm simply going to call the dumbest bike I've ever ridden.
What did you call it? The bag of cats?
It is. It is literally. It is the same amount of control that you have if you were trying to put 6 wet cats in a burlap bag. Riding this thing is an exercise in turning off your brain. You do have to not think. Thinking will only get you in trouble.
But I mean, if it didn't have all that power, you'd probably really get in trouble.
Why does a
I've
speed
pushed-
light blink?
Because, and we're going to talk about that.
I've pushed steering wheelbarrows that had better handling.
Yes,
Yeah,
also
yeah,
true.
yeah.
And I have. It's if you've ever had sex with a condom on from a different room, that's what riding this bike is like. This bike is straight up a sensory deprivation experience.
Yeah.
This is a 2019 Honda Gyro Canopy, which if any of you were within 200 feet of our campsite at Mid-Ohio last time, you will have heard MotoG Pete saying to my friend John Coe, who showed up with all the Honda Gyros, yeah, these are cool and all, but if somebody could find me a Honda Gyro Canopy, I would buy it. No holds barred, no question of price, cost, loss, or value. And he tasked me, because I bring all these vehicles in from Japan, he tasked me with bringing one in from Japan. Little did I know that because I am a degenerate Facebook Marketplace fetishist, that in fact one would show up in Michigan.
Wow.
So outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan, this thing showed up, and I happened to be coming back from the Chicago rally last weekend. So I decided to take a minor detour and go up to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and give the seller, who had a spectacular mullet, a mullet for the ages, I might say, to give him, he wouldn't take the PayPal, he wouldn't take any form of digital transferable currency.
Oh.
So I had to actually take him cash. Yeah, I had to actually take him real cash. So I took him real cash.
And Susan B. Anthony silver coins.
Yeah.
Does he import? You said that he imports these?
No, he doesn't.
No.
So when I had bought this bike from him, in the process of me looking over his operation and stuff, he had a couple of weird vehicles there, as you'd expect with something like this. He said, well, there's a dealer not far from here that brings these in. And he actually has K trucks and these in front of his lot. But he's not like me. He's not going to go to the trouble of getting any of these things titled. He's dancing between the raindrops. His K trucks are farm use only, off-road use only. And these things don't have a title. If you were in Japan, they would have a title. He's simply going based on a Michigan rule that says 49 cc's equals moped.
Oh.
End of conversation.
Then he could get me a Solo,
The
a
fuck's
Honda
a Solo?
Solo.
I'm looking.
What the fuck's a Solo?
Oh, it's my dream bike.
Oh, jeez.
I can't wait.
Which
to
one
see
is
this
not
thing.
Now, while-
your dream
It's actually
bike?
kind of cool.
How often do we hear that on the podcast?
We said that he was going to say that
I have a
about
lot
this
of
stupid
dreams.
thing.
Most of them are stupid,
So, okay, so
but a
I'm
Honda
gonna-
Solo is what I really would like to get.
So hold on a second. So I'm going to pull it up. Is it up on the screen? Is it up on the screen? All right. So I'm going to pull up the Honda Solo, so you guys can see a Honda Solo. All right. This is a tuned Honda Solo. I should I should
okay.
bring up a bone stock.
Yeah, because
Honda
Steve's not going to tune
Solo.
No.
Right.
I'm digging it.
All right. So I'm going to bring up a bone
Okay.
stock Honda Solo.
It's like a Janus.
It looks like a...
It's a heinous.
So it is the standard ubiquitous Honda horizontal motor.
Yeah.
with a carburetor and something akin to a very small motorcycle's gas tank. But it does apparently have like a 16-inch front and rear wheel with spokes. And that's kind of what it is, right?
Yeah.
Kind of what it is. I think we can all agree that's what it is.
I'm not hating it.
No, I'm not hating it. Yeah, it's not awful. That's not awful at all.
So it's 50
Pretty
cc,
cool.
49 cc's?
50C. It's a 50. It's the same, probably the same engine that's in that.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I don't think I have a problem with that. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
I just
Kinda
like it
cute.
because it's so minimalistic. I mean, it's like almost like the minimum you can get.
Oh, whoa.
So why wouldn't you
bike.
have one of these?
Yeah, that's much better.
Because I can order one of these for you today.
Oh, shit. No. Oh, he's thinking about it. Oh,
You
shit.
can't see it.
You can't see it?
The bottle's in the way.
There it is. It's on the bottom screen. So this I can order in for you right now.
Oh, shit. He's thinking about
I'm
it.
already a dealer for these. So this is called the SSR Laser 6.
Dude, that would look sexy in the back of your fire truck.
If that's not, I mean, if that's not
Red?
right?
Yeah.
if that's not just head and shoulders the exact same bike as the Honda Solo, I mean, give or take a Chinese influence or two, I think it might be. I mean, honestly,
And
I'm
this
waiting
could,
for the Sim Wolf 300.
it does look like a good bike.
right. So that's the Laser 6. So if you want a moped or a noped in this case, that is that thing. I mean, that's what it is, and it's automatic transmission. It's electronic ignition. It's 2.8 horsepower, so you can't call it a moped in the state of Ohio.
Under one.
It might even be teetering on the edge of 43.5 miles an hour. But that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. So, yeah, that's kind of, I mean, that has the same flavor to me of a Honda Solo without having to speak Japanese to get one.
Come on, Hoff, just buy one so we can all ride it.
Yeah.
I don't want to ride it. I'll be honest with you.
So I
yeah.
just had to renew my moped
Plate?
title. Yeah, the plate.
Yeah.
Which apparently, so I didn't renew it because of COVID.
Right.
And after like a year, they just chucked it. It was like, no, it's off the system.
Wait a second.
So they have to give me another new plate. So I didn't get the stickers for my current plate.
Right,
Because
yeah.
it's off the record. So they have to give me a new one.
But this is a weird thing about Ohio that I will tell you. I am a licensed trailer dealer in the state of Ohio, which means I have 3 trailer dealer plates. Okay. So when I call the state of Ohio to say, oh, shit, I forgot to renew my trailer
Right.
plates, and I would like you to send me 3 more trailer plates, they go, let's just reinitiate your dealer's license and send you 3 trailer plates. Now, rather than give me stickers for 3 trailer
Well, now I
plates,
know.
they literally just want to send me 3 totally new trailer plates.
And that's what I told them. It was
Right.
like, I need the stickers.
I
It's
need
fine.
stickers.
It's like,
Yeah.
no. Here's a new plate. And I was like, all right. But yeah, so the thing is, it's under 50 cc's, under 1
1 horsepower. Yeah, that's right. 1 horsepower.
But
That's
it's
state
just
of Ohio.
it's a checkbox on the
It's a
fucking piece of
checkbox,
paper. They don't.
I promise this is less than 1 horsepower.
Look, my PC50 is, it's not licensed. You can't license it in the state of Ohio. So it happens to be a PA50 on paper.
Yeah.
That's what they sold.
Yeah, that's what
sold
it
it
is.
to me as. That's what the bill of sale says. So
Yeah. So there you have it.
Yep.
Wow, man. So
I wonder if
back
can you get hysterical plates for those?
No.
for moped?
Mopeds, no.
No.
I tried.
Yeah, they don't do it.
No.
Yeah. Again, they're barely acknowledging the existence of them at all.
Well, that's what sucks because it's
You saw
50
the-
cc's. You
yeah.
barely use them.
Right.
And I have the historical plates for the CT 110,
Right.
but yet I can't get historical plates for a fucking moped, a 678 moped.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
So-
true. And in most states, Michigan not exempt, in most states, if you have a moped registration, there's no title for a moped. It's just a registration because it's a fucking moped. They didn't make titles for most mopeds. But what they do is they just give you a sticker. And that's what's on the back of that Honda gyro out there is a Michigan sticker. It's a green sticker. It's designed to literally fit like on the fork or on the back fender of a moped. And it's 2 years, I think 2 or 3 years at a time. So that thing's got a valid Michigan registration on it right now. So shocking that you guys were riding around on probably one of the first bikes you've ever ridden at Cleveland-Moto that was legal.
That was
So I have a question. So like you're talking about titles.
Yeah.
So with the bike I purchased last week, the guy that I was purchasing it from, it was his mom and dad's, and he didn't care about motorcycles, but he was going to sell all his dad's stuff, his cars and his bikes.
Yeah.
And he couldn't find the titles, so he hired a company
Yep.
And all of them, like I got a legal title. Now it's an Ohio title in my name with no problem.
Right. And he was not in Ohio when he did that.
No, in Indiana.
Exactly.
Oh, so
That's the trick.
Okay.
Yep, that's the trick. So that would be called a bonded title. And that would be you'd hire an attorney. And an attorney would establish something with a court that says we're putting a $20,000 bond out that says these vehicles aren't stolen. Now, a bond is generally 5% cash surety. So if you put a $20,000 bond, if they would say that these 3 motorcycles together are worth $20,000 by anybody's estimation, you only have to fool the judge or the magistrate or whoever.
Right.
And they go, yeah, that seems right. So these 3 vintage motorcycles. And they go, okay, so we're going to set an ambiguous value of $20,000. So you would then need to put $1,000 of your money as represented by that attorney. That's a bond.
Okay.
Now, if those motorcycles aren't reported as being stolen within a year or 2 years or whatever your state's laws are, then you get that money back because they weren't stolen. But you put up the money to promise that they weren't stolen.
So he probably was able to do it because there was 2 cars that he was probably getting 25
Not probably
grand
able to do
for.
it. There are literally
No,
things you
but
can...
I'm saying
yeah.
it's worthwhile for him.
Oh,
to do it.
yeah.
Like if
Oh,
it was
I'd be
just,
doing it all day long.
Yeah, if it was
Yeah.
just the bike I was buying, he probably wouldn't have
I
done
would be doing
but-
it all day long.
Yeah, but you can't do it in Ohio,
You
right?
can't do it in Ohio.
Because
That's
it's
exactly right.
stupid.
Because it makes fucking
Yeah,
sense.
right, yeah.
The reason you can't do it in our state is because it makes sense.
Yeah, so if somebody dies and they lose their title, you have a bike you can't ride unless you
Forever.
pull some shit.
Well, I mean,
Right.
we know things.
Yeah, right.
Right. We're not going to talk about it on this forum,
No,
but we know
no,
things.
yeah, right.
Right. We know people. We know things. There's other states.
We got a guy.
Maybe you could even talk to somebody in like, I don't know, like Indiana.
Yeah, right.
And make a friend in Indiana.
Yeah, right.
Or maybe make a friend in Michigan. Or maybe make a friend in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I need a friend in Pittsburgh because I'm still fighting with that stupid sim.
See? This is it.
The guy they were going to send me the bonding, not the bonding company, with the bank.
Yeah.
Said it was paid off.
Right.
I said I have the title and everything. The guy's like, we'll send you the lien release.
Yeah.
Never shows up.
That's a personal problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a personal problem.
But I think that because I'm not the guy, they're not
Right.
sending me the lien release.
Oh.
Because I have to be Joe Tebow.
You have to send the lien
Brown or
release
whatever
to
his
the
name is.
the guy, and then the guy has to send the lien release to you.
Yeah, the guy's in the wind.
That's my point. Yeah, right.
Just fake the lien release. Make a
I mean,
phony
Allegedly fake the lien.
Right. Yeah.
Well, then I was going to have an attorney call the bank and say, listen, my client has he's got a signed over title to him, which gives him legal
Right.
stuff. No, well, and you're holding up, I mean, your lien is on the title or on this bike. It's not with the other guy. The lien is on this title, and my client is the legal holder of the title. So all you need to say is that I don't know that this title is clear,
Right.
and then it's free
Is
to get
the title currently stamped that there's a lien on it? Because this is what's
it's not stamped at all. All it says is lien. It has a name. So I called that bank,
right. Yeah.
and they gave me a guy. And the guy's like, "Yeah, I'll just
So
send you
is
out
your title an actual title or is it a memorandum title?
No, it's an actual title.
Well, then that means that the lien's been paid off. Otherwise, you
But
just
in-
have a
but-
memorandum title.
But when I took it into the
Yeah.
BMV, they said there's no lien release, and it's not stamped on the title. And I said, but there's no. It says there's like a state thing for a stamp for the state use only.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that says that it's still owed. But it said that this was first in line.
So now people probably understand why when we in this state of Ohio talk about a bike doesn't have a title, why that will reduce the value of that bike by
nothing.
about 95%.
Yeah, it's basically
Yeah.
worthless.
Right. Because now we know that it's probably more likely for that bike to become parts than it is to become ever a running, like, titled
I've
motorcycle
seen people
ever again.
selling titled frames for more than an entire bike that was
Absolutely.
untitled.
Absolutely. For Ohio bikes, for fucking sure. Absolutely.
And that would be good for this thing. If I could find a sim with a blown engine
Yeah,
or something, then it would be fine. I could just swap everything over.
Yep.
Right on. Right on.
And then with that BMW that I bought from you, the wrecked one,
Yep.
I have the title for that.
Yep.
But I have a new frame.
Ah.
So there's no reason. Why can't I just take the frame plate and rivet that on the new frame?
I didn't say you couldn't.
Yeah, I think every chop shop in Ohio does.
I was going to say. I
But
think
I'm
that
just saying. I'm saying it's got
ClevelandMoto
every.
said they could do it.
I think that might be page 1, chapter 1 of
Well, I don't know. I don't.
overcoming adverse
Yeah.
situations through the use of being normal. Yeah, right. Yeah,
Drink up.
Metal stamps.
yeah. Metal stamps, exactly. Yeah, that's real too. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, not to go too deep into the weeds on that. But so anyway, MotoG Pete said, buy this fucking bike, buy this gyro from me, and as luck would have it, here it is. We brought it here back to the shop. We have now all ridden it.
Mm-hmm.
I have acquired at least 3 pizzas in it. Mm-hmm. I have used it to go to the bank and various other.
Well, explain how big
tasks.
the box is on the back.
Well,
You could.
I'd say at least 7 cubits.
Yeah.
Right, it's
10
at least
pizzas.
7 cubits. I'm going to say 10 extra large pizzas with stuffed crust,
Yeah.
easily.
2 small children.
Yeah,
3 maybe.
2, maybe 3 small children.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You have 5 or 6 bags of groceries too.
At least 8 bowling balls. Right? Let's use equations we're familiar with.
12 cinder blocks?
I'm going to say 240 beers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
keg. Well,
Yeah, I don't know.
maybe.
22 boxes of wine.
Sure.
Right. Right. That's another volume people
Four
know.
pony kegs, definitely.
4 pony kegs?
Yeah.
Yeah. What other things would fit in there? Let's think of things that were equivalent.
Turtle doves.
and a cartridge and a bear tree. But it's a big box.
That box is bigger than your no.
I was gonna say I haven't seen a
BA.
box that big
Once
since I
you
left
get-
Germany. For real.
The Germans.
Exactly. And that's true. But riding it is fucking weird
Yeah, it is.
because it leans. It is not an MP3. It will not hold itself up at lights until you do the little parky lock thing. Little parky lock thing is completely analog. There's no electronics involved.
1 wheel in the front, 2 in the rear. 1 in the front, 2 in the rear.
Right?
2 in the front, 5 in the rear.
One in the pink.
That's a
and-
minivan.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right.
It's the other way around.
But the two in the back are much smaller.
Yeah.
Right, much smaller. They're
yeah,
just
the
like
pink- the
knuckles.
pink.
They're just knuckles. Yeah, right. So
2
Not that
pinkies in the
it's a
stinky.
knuckler. Yeah, 2 pinkies in the stinky. That's what they're going to call the next one. The mildly shocking, but it is. But it is.
It reminds me of Aunt Fanny from Robots.
Yes, it does. It has a lot of back. It's
bulbous.
Baby got back for days.
I can only imagine that would be like a huge person trying to run. Like, I mean, that's what it feels like because there's so much mass behind you.
Yes.
And there's no feeling in front of you.
I got
it's like being numb.
It's not mass, it's volume.
It's volume. That's right. This thing has very little mass, but it has excessive amounts of volume.
But at that high level, doesn't
Yeah.
it give you a lot of torque? I mean, it would be a lot of torsion on the rear.
Just a little bit of mass at that high.
Hey,
high
man.
level, you know.
It's so one thing I can tell you is going to get the pizza. It is my world 49cc land speed record from here to Papa John's. I got it to 52 kilometers per hour, which is the fastest I've ever had it. The speed light was engaged randomly, though. But when I was leaving Papa John's, I left with a maximum state of fury. I was just had the throttle pinned. I used the brake for my turn, and off I went into traffic, which was probably too ambitious. When I pulled out here, it was probably too ambitious. I mean, I pulled out between moving cars.
Once you were weighted down with those 3 pizzas.
Those 3 pizzas. It really slowed me down. But what had happened is I pulled out and some jag off in a Rubicon immediately cut me off. So like as soon as the guy, and how do you not see me?
Yeah.
Like
It has a
just your-
farm tractor thing on the back.
It has a
and the
giant orange triangle in the back
Yeah.
that you only
Yeah.
see on the back of Amish vehicles.
thing. Right.
And it's the full size one. It's not the little one. It's the full size one that they use for moving the space shuttle. And this guy fully cut me off in a Rubicon. And I was like, ah, shit. So I had to dive over into what was left of the right lane where all the drunks park in front of the Irish bars. And I immediately, I evaded, but then I made the demand to the boiler room for more steam. And that letter went unanswered.
Captain, more power.
I could have literally sent this thing via smoke signals. I pinned it, and the event of pinning did not a fucking thing.
I'm giving it all she's got,
When
Captain.
when I wrote it, it felt like
I
you know
gotta
what?
get it up.
When a bike bogs down, like when you give a
Yeah.
gas and a bike bogs down, and you're like, oh fuck, it's gonna die.
Right.
That's pretty much all it.
That's
had.
all it has. But the trick is, once you get when you pull away from the light, the variator is doing what it likes to do. It's saying, okay, 8,000 RPMs,
Yep.
maximum variator efficiency. Let's do this. And the bike leaves the light kind of okay. Like, not as bad as you think it would be. Certainly better than a 4-stroke 49cc Vespa modern fuel-injected one, right? It's better than that. It does better than that. But if you interfere with that in any way, meaning you touch the brake or you slow down, you'll never get that launch back. You'll never be like, okay, do-over on the launch. Now you're at the wrong RPM, and fighting to get that rotation back is not good because you're at the wrong spot in the variator. So once I had to slow down for the guy that cut me off, I couldn't get the power back. So it took me the whole way here. Now, manual getting there, I got to 52 kilometers per hour, relatively okay. Yeah. But I could never build that speed back once I had it taken from me. So that's one of those things. I mean, these are ultimately Japanese food delivery vehicles. You know, that's what this is. It's okay. You know.
But when the Rubicon went by, we egged them.
Well, again, I wanted to do terrible things to the Rubicon, but it pulled away from me, and there was nothing I could do.
Yeah, couldn't catch him.
But what we said was this thing can do things that a bicycle never could.
No.
I mean, it's way better than having a bicycle.
True.
Right. This gives the ability for fat people to deliver food, whereas a bicycle can't do that. Right.
And the windshield and the canopy itself, it's kind of cool to have.
The windshield with the windshield wiper and
does.
squirters?
Yeah.
Fuel injection, 4
On a
valves?
cold day or a rainy day, cold rainy day, it would be great.
It would be wonderful. Yeah. I was going to leave it at my house and ride it all the way in from Avon Lake to here, which I have done before on a 49cc, and I live to regret it. And I decided, nope, I'm not going to do that. I just delivered it here.
So that would mean that Steve would ride it all year round then.
Yeah.
Snow wouldn't stop you.
I was actually thinking about that. What's that Daihatsu? That one-seat Daihatsu?
It's right outside.
Yeah.
It's a Daihatsu Midget too.
Oh, yeah.
That
Oh,
one-
that's awesome.
That one is actually something that I would think about, like riding in the winter or driving. I guess
Yeah.
driving, you
driving,
drive
yeah.
that. But I mean, do they make those with 5 speeds?
No.
No.
It's only the 4-speed.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
So you're limited to
It's missing a
missing a gear.
for sure.
So Oscar got to have the first-hand experience of it, and that is from 0 to 40 miles per hour. It is like a raped ape. I mean, this thing couldn't be any more excited to go fast. It is like, yeah, baby, let's play. But
You're like,
when you get to 50 miles per hour, they have managed to scientifically, without the use of fuel injection or without the use of electronic controlled ignition or anything else, they've managed to mathematically, mechanically limit its speed through 1, not being enough gears, and 2, not being enough horsepowers. So they've detuned a traditional 660 motor. And not only did they detune it, but they took away one of the gears. And so by doing all of those things to it, you end up with something that is very fun. It's very nippy around town. It picks right up and hauls the asses. But it does not like to go freeway speeds. No. And that, I think, was part of the design. I don't think that was...
That's calling for a Hayabusa swap.
It is. It is. I agree.
Or a zero swap.
Yeah, I agree. It is all of those things. But what I can tell you from having driven it a lot, driven it quite a bit, is it is very fun. It's hilariously fun. And they do race these Daihatsu Midget 2s, and they race them, and I want to go race them because it looks like it'd be a load of fun. But things you cannot do in a Daihatsu Midget 2. 1, have a friend.
oh, yeah. One seat.
They could sit
You're
in
not
the
allowed to
back.
have friends.
So one seat.
They could have 3 friends sit in the back. The other thing you can't do is adjust your left mirror
You can't adjust your left mirror.
because the left window doesn't roll down.
Yeah, you can't.
Oh, no.
The left door opens, but when you open the left door, the mirror goes with it. So it's like if you open the left door to adjust your mirror, you've just made your problem further away.
Yeah.
Now, you're so close in this thing that if you could roll both windows down, you wouldn't need turn signals. You could signal right or left with just your hands.
You could clap on top of it.
You could clap on top of it. It's basically meant to carry 4 beer kegs around a crowded city, delivering beer kegs to bars and restaurants.
Did you see that weird
why they built
Rolls
it.
Royce Jeep I sent you
Yeah.
from Korea?
From Korea.
That was so weird.
Dude. Yeah. I always say it will never get dumb enough for me. Like, it'll never get crazy enough. It'll never get stupid enough for me. But occasionally there are things that I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to buy that. Like, yeah,
That was really weird. It looked like a Rolls Royce front end, but it was a Jeep
yeah.
with a 6-passenger Jeep with
Right.
seats facing each other. With it looked like what kind of like a couch interior, like the guy upholstered
It was
Chuck and rolled.
awful.
It was a horrible one.
Yeah. And
I thought it looked way better than Ladyboy.
yeah. But anyway, I thought that'd be fun. We could, bullshit about that for a second. That's pretty good.
So it was weird to ride that gyro.
Yeah, the gyro's a weird ride, man.
Well,
It's
it's weird. It's intimidating at first because you're like, fuck, but if you forget that you're in it and you just ride it like
Just
a
lean it
motorcycle,
right.
it kind of rides normal.
Disengaged brain.
Yeah.
Like disengaged brain. I tell people all the time, like if you just suddenly woke up and you were numb from the belly button down, your brain could still tell your legs how to work.
Yeah.
Your brain's been doing it for your whole life. It would just send the signal and you'd walk, right? You wouldn't get any of the feedback, but you'd still walk.
Right.
And that's exactly what riding this thing is like. You don't get any of the feedback,
Right.
but you still go. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was neat.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. Kind of interesting that I'm happy Pete got it. I mean, I really am, and it'll be really, really cool for him to.
I wonder what his vision is for it. I don't know.
Just to fucking own it.
It's
What I'm
fuck around
hoping
with it.
though is I'm hoping that the liquor monster doesn't crawl up his fucking
Oh
spine
no, like last time,
at Mid Ohio and have him
off-roading it.
Vespa 150 this thing.
Yeah.
If you go down the hill
he's
and that,
fucked.
it ain't coming back. It's a permanent
I
feature
would
at the bottom of that
hope
hill.
that he would see how pristine it is,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
respect it,
Yeah.
and at best ride it around.
I mean, that's what you want. I'm hoping he goes down the fucking hill.
I know.
No, dude. No. Wait. He's gonna do the
You know,
burnout.
with the bumper, it looks like it's smiling.
It does, yeah.
I
I mean, once the check clears, man, I want to see him go full balls out on that thing.
He's gonna do the burnout.
Well, full balls out would be like a 9-year-old saying he's got balls.
That's true. It is.
It's like they haven't dropped yet on that.
Dude, if you can throw anything down a hill and it's going to be adventurous.
That's true. That's also
You know?
You
true.
could throw the monkey down the hill, but it'll only do 60. You could drive it off a cliff and you'll land at
That's
60
also
miles
true,
an hour
too.
because
Yep.
that's as
Yeah.
fast as it can go.
Meckelfresh had, in my opinion, probably the best idea. Ooh. The best
Just
idea.
wood. Did you smell wood burning?
I did. Yeah, I did. He had the best idea for this thing. And I don't know. Should we go public with it?
I mean, who's going to steal our idea? Everybody, maybe. I don't know.
Go ahead, John. Bust it out.
Well, I mean, it's basically a pizza delivery thing. So
It's kind of what it's designed to do.
all you have to do is call Domino's and order 10 pizzas and have them deliver them at the gate at Mid Ohio. Throw them in the back and drive around. You could probably double your money on pizzas. So 10 pizzas, $10 a piece.
Set up a
You'll
time every
yeah.
45 minutes. Bring more.
Just keep sending them. I mean, if they're not going to sell pizzas like they did, they didn't sell them last year. You
Right.
might as
Yeah,
well-
you're right.
Yeah, the little golf carts with pizzas didn't roam around. And we would have killed for one at 1:00 in the morning. So I do agree that, that's a really fucking good idea.
It's a little bit. I don't know about riding. I mean, those guys were riding those gyros down there last year, but just riding it up the bumpy road back there, right behind the shop, I was like, the suspension was not great. I mean, I was
I
not.
thought it was going to damage it on the street.
On
over
this-
there.
yeah.
I
That's
mean,
why
I
I
was
just
going
went back.
slowly because I
Yeah.
didn't.
Same
with
here.
those tiny wheels,
Yeah.
you could bury the whole thing in a pothole.
Yeah.
And that is with any Honda gyro. We've all been there. We've all seen all the American available Honda gyros that have existed. They all have that thing in common. They all have the 8-inch back wheels, the small little tiny back
The
wheels.
front's like a 12-inch wheel, though.
It's big, yeah.
It
It's-
wasn't the suspension in the front. It was the little
the
wheels
back,
in the
it's the
back
back.
were just like.
This vehicle has the largest front wheel I've seen on a Honda gyro. The thickest, biggest front wheel I've ever seen on a gyro. But all the gyros have in common, they have the little tiny wheels out back. So that's just the way they are. So, but those have been surviving Mid Ohio for a long time. There's nobody that says you got to do the hill climb.
It definitely has the thickest, veiniest front wheel I've seen.
Is that a 4-stroke?
Yes, it is a
And the other
4-stroke.
gyros are 2-strokes, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, it depends on which one you're looking at. But
Yeah.
yes, to answer your question, 49 cc's, 4 valves, fuel injected. Mm-hmm. Yep. So pretty fucking cool. Yeah, pretty neat. It has a Kickstarter. It's kind of cool.
I was thinking that the only thing that's still slower than that is a Metropolitan.
Yes, for sure.
Because the Metropolitan is still slower than that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Or that one year, those years was air-cooled Metropolitans.
Yep.
I thought you were going to say Versys.
No, I like that. I'm going to buy one of those because I think they're one of the best bikes ever made.
Wow.
I'm proud you own one.
What's that?
You made a good decision in buying that.
Why, thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you.
Mark that down today.
I know, right?
What the hell happened to you?
3 stars.
The
He's got COVID.
Yeah, he's down.
It's the Jepsons.
So many people, and this is hilarious. I'm going through like the podcast listener feedback and Patreon because we have Patreons. We have new Patreons. Yay. But the Patreons, I've had 5 Patreons ask us, what is the name again of that ice made, the ice, the clear icing?
yeah.
It's called Ice Made Clear. Fucking simple, Ice Made Clear. And it's kind of a, what do they call that?
Ricketts.
Ricketts. Yeah.
Ricketts
So it's Ricketts' husbands. So it's our friend Ricketts. It's her husband. And anyway, we call her Ricketts. Her legs do go straight, but that's fine. But that's just, come on. Chill out. This is cool. But anyway, and we've also had many people that are saying, what is the new hotline number? Oh. If you're a Patreon, go to log into your little Patreon thing, log into the Patreon Messenger. I answer them all and log in and say, what's the new hotline number? I'll put that new hotline on there number for you. Yep. So you'll have the new hotline number. So, you won't have to panic and freak out because you don't have the new hotline number.
Or like
Do we have any
this
listener
week,
mail?
well, we had more than listener
Or you
mail.
can just fucking
Show
come in
up.
and see us.
Yeah.
Talk about it, Steve.
Well, we had a guy. What was it? I can't say his name. It's on your screen over here.
It is VOJTEC. I'm going to put it up here so all the boys can read it.
Wojtek?
Wojtek Machenka.
Yeah.
I'm going with Wojtek Machenka. So that is our friend, our podcast listener.
Yeah, he
right?
came in and Phil was occupied.
I was getting my ass handed to me.
Phil was
Yeah.
doing electric bike sales
Oh
to
my
people
God.
that didn't like electric motorcycles.
literally
so that
had-
was a fun thing.
I had a guy call me. He's like, "Hey, yeah, I want to buy this electric bike and everything else, but I'm bringing to my dad and I'm bringing to my uncle.
Yeah.
And I got to let you know, my uncle hates electric vehicles. Period.
And my dad hates my uncle.
No, my dad hates Italian vehicles.
It was a double whammy.
And I was like, so why the fuck would you bring them in?
yeah.
If they've already told me they hate what I'm doing here, then why would you bring them in if other than to just say gauntlet thrown?
Yeah. I think you converted them, though. They were smiling.
He called me back and he's like, dude, he goes, it took you an hour and a half that I'll never get back. But I did, and I had these guys smiling, shaking my hands and everything else. The one guy gave me a little tap on the balls before he walked out. I thought that was nice. But no, the point being, like, look, the one thing we don't have time for, this is the world we live in. If you ask me, I'm not yet retired. I don't have an extra 6 hours a day to just sit and look at the fucking grass. Every moment of every fucking day, I'm doing something.
Well, and what people don't realize, and I never realized until I've been volunteering here, when you're...
That's your story and you're sticking to it.
That's right. When you talk to somebody for an hour,
Yeah.
and then you check the voicemail, you have 37 voicemails.
Every single time.
Every fucking time.
Every single
Like, it's
time.
insane.
When I'm talking to the guy today who called me about his 1983 Virago and how he's certain it just needs a carburetor clean, okay, or whatever it is. But when I'm talking that guy down off a ledge
Yeah.
and telling him that he can do any number of things with his bike except bring it here, right? Most of them involve intercourse, but it's cool. But anyway, when I'm talking to him, our little phone, our message, our message thing, the little beep, we call it, I'm having a beep. You're having a beep. What does that mean? That means somebody else is trying to call you. And that means that person trying to call you, there's, depending on the conversation you're having right now, could be a 3-to-1, a 7-to-1, a 9-to-1, a 12-to-1 odds that call that's waiting for you is better money making than the call you're having. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes, it's like you're trying to jack off with hockey gloves on. Like, you know that whatever you're doing right now is the worst thing you could be doing right now. Yeah. That any phone call that's on the other end, I mean, I would rather hear somebody try to sell me an extended warranty for a car I don't own anymore than talk to somebody about a car, a bike, or motorcycle that they just foolishly purchased. Yep. And now they have nowhere to work on it. But that's the kind of calls that we get.
Oh, it's nuts. I really didn't. I mean, you know, I always knew that you were telling the truth, but I didn't know the extent of how much shit you have to put up with on a daily basis. Some of the calls that you entertain are, I'm laughing my dick off in the corner just listening to you talk to these guys. The one guy arguing with you about carburetors.
Toe in the corner.
Well, I
No,
am,
he's
but
laying on the floor jacking off.
yeah, I do that as well. No, but
With
seriously,
hockey gloves.
but like it's really interesting to hear Phil like decide that, you know what, I'm not going to hang up on this guy and I'm going to try to fucking educate him, and then it turns into a thing, and it's fucking entertaining.
I saw a weird thing today. It was a guy eating snails. Said he doesn't like fast food.
But so anyways, getting back to Bozak.
Chris?
Right.
So he brought everybody a big fat pile of beer. It's
Oh, yeah,
right
he
over
did.
there.
He stocked
Oscar's
our
enjoying
fridge.
the
Oh, yeah.
coconut thing over here.
Yeah.
And he also bought an SSR. He's a good
yeah,
kid.
he
How was the coconut thing?
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
was
going to
really
try
good.
one of those
Supporter.
later on. That looks
Yeah.
like
How many
right up my-
stars?
3.
Ooh, 3 stars. Nice.
That's a good thing, right? There you go.
Exactly what you expected.
Yeah, it's exactly what
Yep.
you wanted. So anyway, just to get into that, we had a great visit from a Patreon member. And if you do go on the Patreon thing and you want to know, yes, we can absolutely, give you all the data you need. We can give you the new hotline number and all this good shit. Like, it is all right there. So that's real. That exists.
Well, that's my phone, and that's what it normally sounds like when you assholes are all texting. So I don't know. I don't know why it's
Nice
going off
silence
now.
mine.
No, you
so.
can go into your settings in your phone and just mute that conversation.
Yeah.
Really, you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. That's real. You can do that. Yep, you can do that. That's a real thing.
But then you don't know what's going on.
Oh, well.
I know exactly what's going on. Our neighbors had a baby in their texting.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Oh, man.
Did
Is
they
it
reveal
yours?
the gender?
It is a masculine child.
Yes. Okay, would you guys like to hear a
Uh-oh.
tech question, a.k.a. Okay, all right. So you remember that guy that who let us know that the DGR was charging money to participate?
Yeah.
Okay, he's back. He's back.
He's back.
He's back. So here we go. So he does say, have it both ways. Keep the podcast a half-drunken shit show, but maintain the current level of audio quality.
That's
I
not a
love
problem.
All right, that's cool.
It's a good.
That's a
so,
prop.
Okay, so Dave King says, tech question here. I seem to remember. Oh, wait, I'm going to read it. I got to do the accent thing like they do on the Misfits. Tech question here. I seem to remember a discussion a long time ago on the podcast about throttle position sensors and a way to recalibrate them. I believe Sleepy and I have the same bike, Kawasaki KZ900RS.
Yeah.
It's the Eddie Lawson Replication Cafe. I love it nearly as much as our child. It's way too much bike for my riding capability, but coming off the Death Trap Stella, the Z900 gives me a smile in the most demented ways. I've
And a
kept
blitz?
mine boner stock, but I'm always fighting somewhat with the snatchy throttle. If you don't mind, could you please rehash that discussion once more? Cheers. And I read that in, I was reading it in cursive.
Yeah.
So,
Was he asking about carbs? Because it's fuel injection.
no, he says. So he says, throttle position sensor reset.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's cover one part of this at a time.
Yeah.
If you own a fuel-injected motorcycle, and it's from the last 15 years, there's something in your ECU of your motorcycle that is essentially adaptive. And some people use the phrase, it learns. It learns you. It learns what's going on. It learns what kind of gas you use. It learns the way you drive. Those are all fancy ways to say it's just collecting data. And it's modifying its map a tiny bit. There's like a little window in which the map will operate for optimal performance. So when we have customers that buy brand new fuel-injected bikes, they buy the bike brand new, and for the first 600 miles, they're good owners, so they're babying it and they're breaking it in. But then after that, we do a service on the bike, and we give them the blessing that they can now go out and ride it like they stole it. And then they go, oh, great, and they go out and ride it like they stole it. But the ECU has had a month or 2 or 3 months, or let's just say 100 start buttons, 100 key swings of the guy who's taking it really easy on it. Mm-hmm. And so now, though, you're going to start pinning it everywhere you go, and the bike is going to be like, who the fuck are you? Mm-hmm. Okay. So rather than getting that bike to learn a whole new thing, just disconnect the red terminal from the battery. So disconnect the heavy, high-tension positive lead. Take that positive tension lead and move it over and touch something metal with it. Because every motorcycle we're going to be talking about right now is going to be negative grounded to the chassis. And if you take that positive high-tension lead And provided you don't have 19 other things plugged into it for your heated grips and your battery tenders and all your shit that you've got hooked up, if you do that, then what will happen is it will literally null out or empty out the data that's in your flash on your ECU. And your electronic control unit is not just a little baby computer. It's also a little baby computer that has both flash memory that comes from the factory that you cannot alter, and it has stored data that is a history of the way that you've ridden, depending on if you have a bike with a Minarelli computer. Minarelli computers have ECUs. Minarelli ECUs have a ton of memory. So they can keep a lot of data in there. And you might be getting a check engine light for something that happened 18 tanks of gas ago. So by taking the positive terminal off, now some people would say, oh, leave the positive terminal off for 24 hours, and that's a great way to purge the electricity that's inside the ECU, and that will be enough to start over again. I just move the fucking positive terminal lead over to a piece of metal. There's no sparks that happen. That's not what's doing. You're literally just draining all the electrons out of it. Yep. So you do that, and then you hook it back up again. Then you start the machine using only one finger. Not the whole fist. Just one finger. You turn the key on, make sure your kill switch is in the run position, and press the start button. If it doesn't catch the first time, don't do anything different. Turn the key off, turn the key back on again, and press the start button again. The bike may take 2 or 3 times of this, and you don't have to turn the switch off. You can leave the switch on. You leave the key on. But the bike may take 2 or 3 button presses to get it to launch because it's starting new. Have you ever worn a pair of shoes for the first time? Right? It's going to be different. So it's starting with nothing. But what it has is it has the pipe that your bike has on it. It has the way you're going to ride it, right? That's about to happen. It will start. And let it start and don't touch the throttle. Let it start and give it about 3-4 minutes. You may hear the idle hunting. It's learning. Stay the fuck away from it. And then after it's done that for 3 or 4 minutes, go ahead and shut the thing off. Just shut it off. Shut it off, walk away. Give it a few minutes. Go back, turn it on, same thing, one finger only. Start the bike, get on it, and now take it for a ride like you've been riding it. Now, the first time you ride it, it's not going to feel the same as it just felt. Some people say it feels a lot better. Some people say it feels a lot worse. The point being, ride it like you ride. Don't ride it like you're breaking it in. Don't ride it like you want your mom to ride. Ride it like you ride. And it will learn that. And it will have a whole new data set of parameters for you and the way you operate. That's called resetting the throttle position sensor. Now, a lot of motorcycles, in the menu of the motorcycle, if you can drill down into the menu, if you have an Aprilia, there's a service code. If you have a Ducati, there's a service code. If you have a Moto Guzzi, there's a service code. You may have to go online and find the service code that you can punch in to the menu screen of your particular motorcycle and reset your throttle position sensor digitally, electronically through the button presses. But if you do that, nulling out the positive terminal, you are going to get the closest thing that you're going to be able to get to an actual factory throttle position reset.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So that worked a little bit. But the other two things, one, when I got mine, the throttle had a good, you have to tighten the throttle cables. It's a tube
Absolutely.
thing. Make sure that you're starting from, you don't, as soon as you pull it, you want to make sure it's adding throttle and it's not whatever, And
there's 2 ways you can be wrong, because we've had customers bring bikes in here too. If you over tighten your throttle cable, you are just as fucking guilty. So if you think, oh, my throttle cable's got, 1/8 of an inch of slop in it, and you tighten your throttle cable up, you adjust your throttle cable to the point where you have no dead space, you have no gap in there, and so that the throttle is always being held at 1% or 2%, you have just now fucked your throttle position sensor. Yeah. Because your throttle position sensor thinks that 0 is now plus 2%.
Right.
And everything will be off.
Right. Wait, so, like on the Sims,
yeah.
if you start it and the throttle is open at all, and you move off, the gauges will be
they'll be off.
They'll it'll be reading 6,000 RPM at 1,000 RPM.
The Sims are
really?
the Sims are particularly good at showing you. So I watched a guy get on his bike the other day who was complaining about he would get to the end of an on ramp or an off ramp, and every time he'd pull the bike up to an off ramp, the bike would stall. So I was like, okay, beating my head against the wall, helping this guy. And I go out and I'm like, go ahead and start your bike up for me. And I watch him start his bike, and he literally cranked the throttle like he was kickstarting a 2-stroke. This guy gave this bike wide open throttle as he was pressing the starter button. His hand moved one movement. He went down and hit the thumb button. So that bike said, when you hit that thumb button, that bike said 97% is a closed throttle.
Yeah.
So when it did the reading, it said that 97% was throttle closed.
Right.
So no fucking wonder his bike is going to stall out and act weird, because when he lets go of the throttle, he's at negative 97%. So his throttle position sensor is going to be giving really, really bad data. So that's why it doesn't hurt. Now, that's all free. Okay, so that is all free. That's just good maintenance. If you do that once a year, I wouldn't hate you.
And it helps. It helps.
Right.
It helps.
And then the second thing would be, of course, just good maintenance, absolutely free. Take that 1.5 inches of slack out of your throttle cable.
Yeah.
Because when bikes come from the factory, they have got a lot of slack in the throttle cable. Well, I mean, look, man.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
I walk up to half the bikes that come out of these crates, and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like,
Yeah, it's nuts.
come on. And so when I'm talking to customers, or when they're talking to me, I'm just standing there with an 8mm wrench, and I'm just adjusting throttle cables, because it doesn't kill me to do it when I'm standing around in here.
Well, and the way you ride, if you're a new rider, I'm not saying he is,
Yeah.
but if you're a new rider and you learn to ride in a couple of years,
Yeah.
just do the reset and now ride how you ride now
That's
after a couple of years, and that's going to be
absolutely right.
tuned to your new ride style.
Well, sort of. I mean,
It's not going to be like a big
Look.
difference, but it will change.
I will tell you this: for that actually, I've had 3 bikes now that particularly you couldn't do anything. For some reason the engineers decided that they wanted those bikes to have a fairly snatchy throttle, and it sucks.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for a fucking adventure bike when you're trying to ride off road and the fucking thing is snatchy. It's terrible.
It's just spitting dirt everywhere you go.
So obviously you can go to some guy from the forum that says, "Hey, I flash ECUs," and definitely, you don't know what this guy does or what his plans are. Or you can find a company, like I personally use two-wheel dyno tuners, where they've dynoed and they look at the charts and they map everything out, and they give you all these options. So if you have a pipe, if you have an exhaust, if you have a header, you tell them all the things you have, if you modified your airbox, whatever, and then they give you a tune specifically for what you have on your bike, and you can even tell them how you ride, what you want to do. And then they tune it. But it's really cool because on my 900, it went from, like he's saying, being a little snatchy around the low end no matter what, to now it's a much more linear throttle applique. It's really nice for turns now. When you're really hammering through a turn, you don't want that thing to all of a sudden kick out on you. It's a nice linear turn.
It is. Yeah.
It also took away the speed limit, so now I can go 150 some miles an hour on the bike.
Yep.
It kicks the fan on 20 degrees lower, and then the different modes. It turned the one traction control off, which I didn't know they were doing that. So the first time I rode it, scared the shit out of me.
Wow.
Because one used to be traction control, like it let your wheel come up about 4 inches.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
And now it doesn't.
Right.
it just
now
comes
it's
up.
game on.
Yeah, now it's game on.
Now it's loop that
2
bitch.
is that, and then 3 is like rain mode or whatever, which is kind of nice for whatever. But
So 1 is unlimited.
yeah.
2 is GT.
Yeah.
And then 3 is rain.
Right, which
That's
is
cool.
like, let's not wheelie and stuff.
Right.
But you can also define all that. You can tell them, I want more traction control.
So it's not quite as far as like having a Power Commander USB where you're going to hook it up to your laptop and you're going to change all the parameters.
You can
Right.
fuck yourself all up.
You can absolutely fuck yourself
and blow
all
your
up.
bike up and do whatever. These guys, everything they do is dyno tuned. They every time a new bike comes out that's going to be something that they can do, they get a loaner bike. They'll do somebody for free. They'll try all these different things, different pipes, different whatever on it. Make all the different fuel maps, all the different things, and then they sell those. And it's about $240. And I mean, I 100% think it's worth it. And it takes literally like if you send them, overnight, they'll send it back within 2 days. So you'll get it in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Done.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool.
You talk about taking your bike in for free. My buddy Kevin just turned his Triumph 660 into Twisted Throttle to be used as a development bike, and he's going to get it back with all the fun stuff on it. And one of the things that he said, Dan, that bike is already set up for is a blip shifter.
Yeah.
So it's a blip shift where you can just
You basically don't need the clutch.
but it has a
You
pigtail.
can still be under acceleration.
Yep.
Yeah, it's you can just hold the throttle on and go. Brr, brr, and the bike is already wired for the
Yeah, I
ignition
believe
kill.
that it's detecting your foot motion or something. I don't know.
You know,
but yeah.
you have to switch out your shifter. You take
do?
a shifter, and the shifter has I believe a momentary switch or something that
Ain't that something?
feels when you touch it, or it's built into the shifter somehow. So when it's like a an air
looked to
shifter on a
me
drag
Like a
bike,
paddle. Yeah.
Like you just replace the shaft that goes from the shifter to the
something like
the
that.
gearbox.
Whatever it is, because I think what y'all can tell you that riding Dan's Triumph 660 is Triumph 660 today.
Yeah.
One, it's so you've got some sort of traction control on there right now, because it wouldn't let me do anything. I tried desperately to crash it, and it wouldn't let me. It gave me like a respectable little wheelie. It gave me a respectable little wheelie.
I
but
dropped it.
Yeah, and you can only turn the traction control off when you're stopped.
That's one of those I was going to say.
Ah.
So this is one of those ones where you can't
Change.
kill yourself. He's like, I'm going to do something stupid. Hold on. Wait, let me turn it off.
Think about it.
Let me think about it. Right. But I did take it out and ride it, and it's like it is insanely light.
Oh, yeah.
Like whatever it weighs is regardless. Whatever the numbers of gravities that it displaces means nothing. It feels like a 300cc bike. It feels invisible underneath you. I was doing lock-to-lock turns in the parking lot, figure eights lock-to-lock, and not even thinking about it. But also the management, the spark management in it meant that clutch was out completely. Whereas a lot of bikes, when the clutch is out completely and you're going 2 miles an hour, the bike gets confused and either wants to stall out or wants to retard the timing so much that you get a pulsing sensation, right? And that causes you to lose your line when you're doing full lock, super low speed stuff. And it didn't. It was perfect. And I could roll the throttle on with my hand off the clutch entirely, even standing up, which is unusual. Most bikes, when you're standing up, you kind of lose that fine tuning of it. I was really impressed by that.
I think that bike that's fly by wire, right? There's
It is. I
think so.
Yeah, it's
and
fly
you
by
can
wire.
kind of like
Yeah.
I noticed like when you goose it, it doesn't go whoa whoa. It's like
No.
whoa.
Let me tell you this:
Like
when we took
it's
the
adjusting for your irradical input.
but when we took inappropriate bikes to the Blue Ridge Mountains, and then
Right.
Dan brought that,
Yeah.
and then at one point he was like, "Go ahead and try it," And I was like, "Fuck, we brought the wrong bikes." It was so fun, man. And I only went up and down the street. Obviously I wasn't beating on your bike,
Right.
But I could see like 2 days on that bike there. You would
That's
have,
an awesome bike.
man, it'd be
Yeah.
smoking.
But
I was pretty happy on my KLR 650. There's nothing inappropriate about that.
Well, and what's funny is I did look up, I looked up some of the numbers for it.
Yeah.
And, they advertised it at 454 pounds.
It doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't feel like it. And, that's 54 pounds heavier than a Moto Guzzi V7.
Mm-hmm.
That would be heavier than your Versys, right? But it doesn't feel like it.
No.
It just doesn't feel like
It
it.
felt smaller than my Versys.
It did feel
I mean,
smaller than the Versys. The handlebar position and the whole front cluster area is lower than the Versys. So like that whole thing is a little bit lower, closer to the tank.
Sporty. It's definitely sportier.
Yeah.
It is. But I was very impressed for a bike that MSRP's at under $10,000 that it feels snappy. It's a really fun, but it feels when somebody hands you the keys to something like a Versys 300 or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or let's use another one, a Yamaha R3. Sure. Okay. Which is not a terrible bike. And you hand you the keys to it and you go out and ride the bike and you're like, this would be fun if it had like 126 more cc's, right? Yeah. This is it. At the point now, I'm just constantly over revving it. But the funny thing is that Sport 6, the Triumph, the Tiger feels its dimensions underneath you feel like it's a 300.
Yeah.
But its power feels like a 900.
But how does Triumph make that bike?
Yeah.
But then also make the Craigslist bobber that looks like some fucking dude took a hacksaw to it out front of it?
Well, look, man, they haven't like they said, there's an ass for every seat.
Yeah.
Right. And I agree with that, and I think Triumph has done a very good job of hitting the ass for every seat. I think they've done a hell of a job with that. But I am very impressed by that bike because
even the sitting position was really nice.
Really
It was
comfortable,
It's
yeah.
not like crotch
Yeah, you
rockety.
did good, Dan. That was a good
yeah,
nice
that- and I mean-
purchase.
Yeah, I'm even comfortable on it. I think maybe
Exactly.
drop the pegs an inch for me, but that would be
Yeah, you're
all
tall.
I'd
How
do.
tall are you? 6'2"?
6 feet.
6 feet? Okay, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's a really, really interesting bike. And as much as we joke all the time, we're like, okay, Triumph, any flavor of Bonneville that you want, right?
Well, yeah.
But that bike has a completely different personality. So, here's to them for making a bike that wasn't just another Bonneville.
Well, they did other things like my Thunderbird, which is a Bonneville with no rear shocks.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's true. So it is, the Versys 650 is a little heavier than his bike. I checked it out. So the Versys is, it's weird because some people do it wet, some people do it dry. Right. Hey.
Giggity.
Hey.
What's it
Giggity.
wet?
What's that?
What's a Versys wet
Well, I'm reading down here. It says 476.
with soggy panties?
Yeah, with soggy panties.
But a lot of the bikes that you sit in, like the Africa Twin doesn't feel as heavy as it is at all, unless you're moving it without it running. Then it's really heavy.
It feels heavy. It does feel heavy when you're trying to move it, but when you're riding it, it feels light.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think if
This
you're
is
under
true.
500 pounds, you're doing good.
I don't know. I still think that that 450 would be nice if it was that Honda CRF 450L.
Well, what was your goal,
Would be
Phil?
a nice bike, but
You wanted under 400 pounds and 100 horsepower? or
That's
something?
always been my thing. So, like, for my perfect motorcycles that I've ever ridden that were like light your ass on fire, the magic was under 400 pounds and right around 100 horsepower. But usually, though, that 100 horsepower number can be really weird because
It's hard to find a 100 horsepower bike that's under 400 pounds.
it's also
MotoGP, they're like 200 horsepower and 100.
but
80 pounds
I meant
or
like on a budget.
Yeah, right.
But the other thing too is we discovered that there was like that magic number about 62, 64 foot-pounds of torque too. So you could take the 100 horsepower number away if you could replace that 100 horsepower with about 60 foot-pounds of torque.
zero.
Well, I mean, that's fucking like you do a zero and that kind of throws those numbers all out the window. But when you look at that Tiger 660, you got a bike that's give or take 450 pounds, right? And you got 47 foot-pounds of torque and about 80 horsepower. And now there's no complaint. It's fucking perfect.
It's a spirited bike.
It is. But when I'm talking about like the idea of like a motorcycle for me to ride that I would be like, oh, I can ride this every day, but also go do track days on it.
Yeah.
Like that would be kind of the magic number is that like right around 100 horsepower, right around 60 foot-pounds of torque. It's funny because that number ends up being what? It ends up being a lot of inline four cylinders that are...
Then your weight goes up. I know.
MT-07s. Like,
I was going to say, I think my
Right.
Z900 is 100 and
It is.
some horsepower,
It
and I
is.
think it's like 400 pounds maybe?
it's very close.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very funny thing, but you end up with four-cylinder motors that tend to be around an extremely healthy 600 that you need to crank out to 12,000 RPMs to get those numbers, in which case the torque goes away, or Triumph 3-cylinders. So Triumph 3-cylinder 900s all deliver those numbers too. And it's really, really funny when you kind of put those, if you kind of put those into the shopping chart of all the motorcycles on the planet. And you're like, okay, 400 pounds, 100 horsepower, 62 pounds-feet of torque, and put those all together, you're not going to find many V-twins that do that. It's pretty much going to have the word Ducati on the side if you want it
turbo.
to do that.
You can get it with a turbo.
And you know what? I fucking hate turbos on motorcycles.
I'm just saying, but you can get those numbers with
Yeah,
a turbo,
absolutely.
and the lightness, and the. I mean,
Yeah. With a turbo, you can do that. But on motorcycles, I can't stand turbos. Yeah.
The Z900, we have 100 horsepower, 8,500, and 67.5 foot-pounds of torque.
Right. And the numbers are right there. And what's it weigh?
386 pounds.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a fucking fun bike.
It is. I loved riding it. I mean, it's a great bike. Yeah. So, but that's what you see. That's where we end up with is a really, really healthy inline four or a triple, which is kind of like cheating, but that's cool. But yeah, if you like a big V-twin, it's hard to do.
So I sent you a question.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Tell me about that shit show.
Okay, well, no, bring it up. It's your question.
So the question is, could you put a 350 CB350, crate motor into the Janus? How nuts would that be?
you mean the single cylinder CB3, the new CB350 single cylinder?
No, I think he was thinking an old motor.
I would think that a new one would work.
Well, let's talk about that.
I don't know.
Let's talk about
I
it.
mean, you could do anything if you really put your mind to it.
Okay, but again, not willing to spend milliard money or milliard time into doing it, making it. Do we think?
I have a new affection for CB350s.
There you go. Yep, and you can talk about that too, because nobody in the podcast has heard anything about that.
Yeah.
So Sleepy found himself a CB350.
Yeah. I was supposed
It's orange.
I was actually kind of funny. I was actually supposed to go to the doctor and not show up here to go to the doctor to get my toe fixed. But I was doing one of my searches that I always do, and this thing came up. So I canceled the doctor and I drove to the middle.
I love the way your priority system works.
Fuck the toe.
My toe is literally black. Yeah.
And so I canceled the doctor and I drove 6 hours into Indiana to go buy a basically almost pristine 73 CB350 for a ridiculous, like almost to our rule of $1 a cc. Now it's $2 a cc.
Absolutely.
Inflation.
That's
Yeah,
inflation.
It's a
Yeah,
Russian's
that's fair,
fault.
right?
We can do that math too.
Yeah,
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
So now we have a motor donor for
No,
Chris's
we don't.
Janus.
No, we do not. I
No,
love
I
this
say
thing.
he goes. I say he goes with a CB354, turns it sideways, and
Oh,
makes
no.
it look like a Henderson.
Makes it look like a Henderson or a Cleveland.
Oh, that would be good.
That would be sweet.
And shaft drive too. Fuck it.
Dude, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. Seriously.
That's doable.
Like, why do anything else? Put a CB350 4-cylinder in it, because those are really easy to find the carbs for.
Turn it 90 degrees.
It's one of the. I will tell you, Chris, it is one of the hardest motorcycles I've ever tried to keep on the road.
Luke's
for
been
my
looking
customer.
for carbs for like
Luke
4
has bought
years.
6 motors to try to find 4 carburetors. Like, it's.
What he needs is Nick to develop, the 2 into 4 carb plate for him or
He
something.
needs a 1 into 4 with a lawnmower carburetor, right? A 1 into 4 with a lawnmower.
Did you watch that lawnmower carburetor
I
on a
did.
302?
Yeah.
Very effective.
Again, I will go back to my original statement. Carburetors are slightly less complicated than training a monkey to spray gasoline into the top of your motor, right?
Slightly.
Because it will do the exact same thing. If you put a string out of your car and put it around the monkey's neck, and every time you pull the string, the monkey squirts gas in the carburetor or in the intake,
Mad Max
right?
style, just
Right?
spit in it.
Okay,
There you go.
monkey with a squirt bottle. Okay, that is way more reliable than a carburetor. All you need is bananas. That's it. You can run it on a ratio of 2% bananas to gas. Cheaper than 2-stroke, and just be like, okay, light turn green, hit it, Chim. Hit it, Chim.
Hey, chippy.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be easier in my mind than that. So that lawnmower carburetor on a 302 Ford engine, part of me just goes, no shit, Sherlock. Like, of course, that motor has the same CFM as a lawnmower, as a big lawnmower. I mean, it's not when you picture this little tiny Walboro
right.
that's the
Yeah.
size of a fucking quarter. That's not what's on this on this car.
Not much bigger, though.
It is a lawnmower that will handle 350 cubic feet per minute. Like, so it's it's a 350 cubic
It's
CFM.
like a Kawasaki
Yeah,
twin.
that's exactly what it is.
No, it was not. It was like a carburetor off of your rototiller that would go on a Tecumseh, that would go on a Briggs and Stratton.
Seriously?
That had because it had the little it was only that big.
Yeah,
And you got to remember, 350 CFM. That's only floor. That's maximum.
that's maximum
But
flow.
that's not what it's flowing at idle.
And
or
so,
at
what I would like to
1,050.
remind everybody,
Yeah.
before we all choke on our invisible dick, all right?
I'll choke on my real dick.
Okay. In the video, that motor was
flexible.
not under load.
No,
That was just a motor that was running. The only load on it was its own crankshaft.
but he drove it.
I understand. But did he pull a trailer?
He went 45 mile an hour.
Exactly. And on a 302 Ford motor going 45 miles an hour would require all of about 3.5 horsepower.
Perfect.
Right. So the point is,
Highly
he was
fuel efficient.
basically running a 302 motor leaner than God.
Yeah.
But if you'd have put a trailer behind that vehicle or asked him to go 70 miles an hour,
But he did a
would have run
burnout.
into way less. What's that?
I think he did a burnout.
Again,
He did a burnout.
I did a burnout on a buddy out here with 7.5 horsepower.
I did a burnout the other day. Ask
a
John.
burnout does not necessarily mean you've got extra horsepower.
I wouldn't. You know what? If you to go bump up on a little bit
Right.
bigger carburetor, put like an FT 500 and a 42 millimeter motorcycle car would probably run really good.
Hey, I smoked a tire off my Simba in front of John the other day.
He did.
But
He did.
the point is, that will a 302 motor run with just a light wisp of carburetor cleaner?
It'll run without a carburetor.
in
You
the
just
that's
pour
what I was gonna say.
gasoline into the
Don't have
engine and it'll run.
But that's the thing is, we were trying to say,
But we're not just talking firing up. It idled. It had throttle response.
And again,
it was
If you poked a hole
I'm fine
in a
with-
gas can
Right.
and set it on top of the hole, the manifold,
Right.
and started it up and it ran, and then you poked a slightly bigger hole and gave it some gas, it would run.
you guys aren't fucking princesses. We have all been to the same places. We've all been to the same place. That 1100 Yamaha that we had at Mid-Ohio,
Oh shit.
we ran that bike by having Starch a Bastard sprayed at it in the general vicinity of where air went into the motor, right? And it at no point was gasoline getting through the gasoline lines. There was no gasoline getting through the carburetors. But in generally being in
probably
the same
one of them.
yeah, but in the being in the same room with something like ether, and it ran.
Same room.
Right. Well, that's the thing is when you look at this thought experiment of this little tiny Walboro style carburetor running a 302 motor, and people go, this little tiny carburetor is running this entire motor. The fuel industry has got
government is
you over a
suppressing.
barrel.
Yeah. The
Big
government-
Oil is lying to you. The
Yeah,
General
Big
Motors
Oil.
is lying to you. Like, we can run these cars for pennies a day if you just replace your Holley 450 double pumper with this Walboro carburetor. Yes, you can until you put 4 people in it
Right.
and try to go 70 miles an hour.
Was this like Garage 64 or whatever on YouTube? The Russian dudes?
No, this is
No.
a different guy.
This guy told me his firsthand account of he worked for GM,
Right.
and he bought, and his buddy worked for Dodge. And this is a firsthand account. I mean, I don't know how true this is.
You know what I call first-hand account? A lie only one person told.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's
anyway,
getting your lie directly from the source.
His whole thing was that they drove down. He bought a brand new Chevy, and this guy bought his Dodge, and they drove down to Columbus, to do something, to go out to lunch or something. And
Yep.
they filled up the gas tank. So his Chevy took like 20 gallons or whatever it takes. And the other guy put his in, and it took like 2 gallons. And he thought that the neck was like
blocked or something.
blocked. He thought he had a blockage in his fill tube. So they opened the hoods, and he said that the guy with the Dodge had it looked like a block of steel where the carburetor would have been, but it was like a 1 by 1 foot block of steel that was like 6 inches tall, and it was sitting on top of the engine, like where the car would be. Like it was the carburetor for the car. So this this is exactly the way the guy told it to me. So then he's like, this must be the famed 200 mile per gallon carburetor or whatever.
Yeah.
So they
It's a
drive back to
perpetual
Cleveland.
motion carburetor.
Drive back to Cleveland, and he fills up again, and it's another like 1 gallon or whatever it took. And so the guy's like, I'm gonna back engineer this thing and sell it. So he puts it in his garage, and he's hiding it from. And then so Dodge called him and said he wanted the car back. They wanted the car back to give him another car. That he got a prototype of something, and it was like a mistake. So the guy's hiding it at his mother's house. And he said, like, the Dodge police came in and just, took the car and dragged it out of his Mustang and put it in, like, a covered van and took it away. And he was all bummed out.
Here it was a carburetor that had 2 5-gallon float bowls on either side.
So if you do read the story about the gentleman that did this test, that did this entire test with the lawnmower carburetor, the important
Now
thing.
you're going to do research in the middle of the argument.
Thunderhead 289. But no, I just wanted to bring it up, though, because I watched the video, too. And the 2 critical elements were the timing of the motor. Because the timing of the motor was adjusted in such a manner that you really couldn't use the thing for practical daily driving. It's great. The experiment works. He was able to drive it and drive it down the road and everything else.
Did you retard it really? You must have retarded it.
Well,
really.
not only that, but it's air management. So in order to get things to work that way, remember, you take the most simple motor in the world, a 2-stroke motor, and you let enough air get into that motor, it's going to run better and better and better and better and better and better and better.
Until it does.
Yeah, right.
Right. Until it doesn't. But at some point, it's going to run better than it's ever run on the least amount of fuel. But now you got to manage that. So what his system was he had this Arduino system set up that was bleeding off air thousands of times a second. That was literally micromanaging the amount of air that was going into the system so he could maintain a safe, AFR, air fuel ratio.
Seems like it's overcomplicating the carburetor then.
Well, but the idea is, can you do it? Yes, he absolutely did it. And it does work and it functions. Now, the trick is when you design cars, though, they have to be flexible enough that you can drive it with 4 people in the car. You can maybe pull a small trailer, or when the light goes green, you got to be able to take off and keep up with traffic and go 80 miles an hour.
That's cool. We got Nick. Next week, we'll have the solution. Nick will reprogram it. And it'll be
if we
ready
go
to
back to the trouble, the task at hand, which was how do you put a carburetor on a CB354?
Right, exactly.
You could build a 4-into-1 plenum.
Absolutely.
And put a carburetor that's probably not bigger than one of the normal 4s.
I totally agree.
Maybe twice, probably not twice as big. You're just slightly bigger because it's only going to be feeding one cylinder at a time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
When you
could turn it into
2, it would be like more balanced. If 2 into
it all depends on where. It all depends where.
So now
one single carb would be better. It would have better velocity and stuff and lower and mid range.
Right.
Whereas, like, if you want maximum horsepower, you have 4 carburetors going into 4 cylinders.
Yep.
Right.
2 inches away from the intake.
Yep.
Whereas, like with trials bikes, they put a longer runner on
long.
it, so that the air has there's a reserve of air. So whenever you give it the gas, you have that, and it's mixing more before it goes in the cylinder.
Now, Janus, whose name is on the side of the motorcycle, their solution for the problem was taking almost the same motor that genuine G400C uses, that we all here would identify as a Honda XR motor. So they're using the same basic blueprint, the same design of a chain-driven overhead cam, single-cylinder 4-valve 450 for the new Janus. So their solution was keep it with 1 cylinder, which keeps it cheap and simple. Now they're going with, I would hope they're going with the same fuel injection system that all the other Chinese manufacturers are using, because it would seem like fuel injection would be a better choice than a carburetor at this point on their new 450. I would say walking down that same street's probably a good idea. Single cylinder is going to keep it affordable. There's plenty of single cylinder crate motors that you
only have to fabricate 1 exhaust.
Damn straight. That's true. That's a major cost savings. A 350 motor is going to be way more power than your pushrod 250 that's in it right now, because the 2-valve pushrod motor that you got in your bike right now is good for around town stuff and making that cool, like, Janus-y experience. But even they're doing a single overhead cam, chain drive cam with 4 valves on their new motor. So if I would say that aside from getting one of those, if I were doing the project, what I would probably look for is an old XR 400, or I would look for maybe a Yamaha XT350. Those are weird carbs, but the motor itself is really good. I'd look for something like that, single cylinder.
But don't they have 2 exhaust ports?
They do, but that's going to make your exhaust a little more expensive.
But you'd be able to.
But you can make it look cool. You
can
can have twin exhausts.
Yeah, right. That's
you
true
could
too.
buy, but you could just buy the one that fits the Honda.
Oh yeah,
like you said,
you,
it'll fit.
you-
the Honda.
that's what. Do you remember
It'll
that
fit
G400C scrambler we built?
Yeah.
That was an off-the-shelf header pipe that we just tactfully welded into a scrambler pipe. So that's not a problem. But I would think rather than trying to grab a vintage CB350 motor, because those have all been taken by Skidmark Garage and Moto Go to teach kids how to work on motorcycles, which is a good place for all those CB350 motors to go. But I'd say rather than doing that, I might go with an XR motor or an XL motor or something that is very much like the motor that's in my GB500 or the motor that would be in a genuine G400C. Which, if you say those words, well, genuine G400C, aka I can't remember the name of the Sunray. If those are available crate motors, those can be purchased, probably with an ECU and an EFI already there. That's a pretty big advantage. So if you have an ECU, the computer, and you've got an EFI system, and you can literally buy it as one ka-chunka-chunka, that's badass. Then the job of fabricating becomes a hell of a lot more realistic than it is trying to get a CB350 on there and your electronics on the CB350 are bone simple. You can do a 4-wire wiring diagram, but then you don't have your turn signals. Like, you're losing a lot of the things that make the motorcycle safe for the city. Because a CB350 motor in a race chassis, like just for a track bike, is pretty fucking simple. It's a tough one. I mean, there's plenty of both of them. So, if you're going to go with a vintage motor, what's a CB350 motor put out? 28 horsepower, something like that?
Oh, that's what I was going to say, 28.
So your gains
26.
gains are pretty modest compared to the 250 that's in it already.
A 400 would probably be more fun.
A single.
It
Yeah,
would
I
rev
agree.
better, though.
What's that?
I think it would rev better.
Could Smith handle a high performance Janus?
Well, wow.
No, because that Janus runs.
That's a
Hold
good
on.
question. Yeah.
That Janus runs out of breath. I mean, at higher RPMs, it's like really huffing. So
Yeah.
But more importantly, what was the one thing that Janus did even on their prototype 450? Rear suspension.
Yeah.
Janus does not make a rigid 450.
True.
And I applaud them for that, because the 250 works really well with the rigid back end. You air down the tire and the bike rides like it should. It's a flat tracker. It's meant to emulate a 1920s motorcycle. And so the power is very similar, and it drives very much like the big tall wheels and everything. It drives like an antique motorcycle. But if we're going to just repower his Janus, it's a rigid. So in the spirit of keeping it a rigid, well, let's think about what the gains are. Do you want that Janus? What's Janus's top speed right now that you've got? I mean, you rode it to Indiana, so
65
65
with my fat ass.
So what would be?
If I was going to go with a twin, I might do something like an Intruder 500. If we're going to go with a twin, let's go with a bigger twin, with more horsepower.
Oh, okay.
Or could you get a V-twin, like a Shadow 600 motor or something in there? Or
What about doing?
then you'd have to worry about water cooling.
500,
Wow, yeah. I was going to say, what about a S40, a Suzuki 600cc single cylinder Intruder, 650 LS?
Savage.
Yeah, Savage motor.
Do that.
That
But
might
then the
fit.
styling cues of an old engine
Yep.
are way better than the new ones. So you're looking at, if you buy a vintage engine,
Yeah.
it looks way better.
It looks cosmetically way better. So then the other question. So the other question is piss what the dick God gave you, but make it a better dick. So take the motor that's already in it and see that motor's a motor that's been around for a very long time. So it would not shock me to find out that there's a top end kit for
Throw a
it.
kid on the bitch.
Throw a kit on the bitch. Right? Because there's nothing in the world that can't be helped. It's
Pumper
got a
carb.
carburetor.
Put a pumper carb or something on it.
Put a Mikuni on it, put a flat slide on it, whatever. If there's a top end kit available for it, I don't know.
That's yeah.
I mean,
Stroke
it seems like,
bro.
Don't stroke me, bro.
yeah, I mean, it seems like in the world of Chinese powered 250s,
There has to be something out there, right?
yeah, I mean, there's got to be something. I
At
mean,
least
look,
make it a 300 or something.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right, because I bet you that you could, if
Big
you're
boy.
currently getting 65, and you just modify the existing engine so that you're getting 75, but
and
it's a
then
lot
try it
more
out.
fun getting
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot easier for trying to re-engine it.
And try it out for a rigid to see if you're okay with that.
That's
and
that's
it's
a good
way
point,
cheaper
too.
than buying a whole new
That is a very
motor
good
and
point.
mounting and all that other stuff.
Because then you still have the aesthetic. Because the Janus's
Right.
aesthetic is perfect. Like that thing looks like $1 million bucks. Paint color, leather bags, everything about it looks exactly.
The only
what
thing I would do is put
want to look like.
front fork covers on. I mean, those springs.
Oh, okay, all right.
Spring covers would make it look more vintage, I think, or like
Oh, like sheaths over them, like the,
you know how the
chrome.
350s have those metal tubes
Metal
over
cans,
the. The Janus doesn't have it; it just has the springs there, and it would look. I think it would look more period correct if it
I would
had.
convert it to leaf spring, personally.
Okay. All right.
Just kidding.
air
That's what
ride.
Sparky said he's doing that to at a CB350.
Is leaf spring in it?
The back.
Wow.
Damn.
Man.
But he still doesn't have carbs for it
True.
because he sold me the bike with the carbs.
Oh,
I had a set of carbs laying around.
There is, I just pulled this up because I know the motor that's in your bike. And so this motor, this top end will fit. So this is a performance cylinder kit.
To make it a 300?
254.
275. 275.
This is a motor. Well, so this motor in this particular iteration of the motor came to life technically being 229 cc's, and there's a kit that offers bumps it up to 250 cc's with an improved cylinder head, and so $355 US, $350 US, right, for a different head. Right now, unfortunately,
So you can't be reached.
well,
Out of stock.
we're not. I don't want to.
505.
I don't want to say the person's name. I'm not going to say the name of the people involved because I know that if I say it 3 times, something will happen.
Steve will lose
The
money.
point being, that there is that your particular motor, and I know the origins of your motor, and I know that other companies in America have used that motor in various different products. So I know that there are cylinder kits and other modifications made to it that people have done to eke out 80 miles an hour, right, out of that motor. And I've ridden the bikes that have had that tuning done to them. So that's a thing. You know, I happen to know that Wiseco, who's a Cleveland company, does make a piston, but you're going to have to go to Ciel Delzani to get him to bore it, to get him to hone your bottom end, hone your top end rather, to match it. And then you're also going to need a different head because you cannot use the existing head, and you don't want to use the existing head if you're going to go to the performance piston.
Bigger valves, bigger breathing.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You won't get the gains. You doing that. Gains. But so there is things in the world that exist. I've just found them. Wow, that really came through. That was powerful. That was good.
Gains.
But that's
He wants his bike to be swole.
opened up a can of gains. But that's the thing, and I think I would probably do that. Like I would do a deep dive on Chinese 250cc motorcycle. Because remember, there's the California Scooter Company, CSC. There's a whole lot of companies that have imported 250cc single-cylinder powered motorcycles in the United States. And everybody who's done that, there's a forum of users that all go, I bought this, I want it to be faster. Whether it's a fucking buddy scooter or whatever. I mean, like,
I'm going to go out on a limb and say you could buy a whole hopped up goofball motor for $1,000.
Me too.
And just swap it.
I'm kind of thinking that same thing. And not even be off the reservation when it comes to your wiring harness, because it's all coming from the same factory.
You know, you look at Piranha motors, like, you know, just like you could buy a 120 up to a 140. You just, you know, how much do you want built into it, and how much do you want to pay?
Well, somebody came into
has to be doing that for the 250s.
Somebody came into my shop the other day and specifically told me, "Oh, look, I want to buy a Honda Super Cub. No, a Honda Trail 125. I want you to performance tune it, right?" And I said, "Just fucking don't. Buy a Piranha motor. Like, since it's a laydown motor anyway, since it is going to hang from the same bracketry and everything else, I would be foolish to tell you, oh, we're going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G to spend $2,500 to scare 10 more miles per hour out of your 52 mile per hour Honda Super Cub, right? Rather than do that, shelve your existing motor, put it in a cardboard box for posterity,
Just swap it.
and go buy a fucking 150cc or whatever.
or the Daytona 212 or
170,
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah. They all literally fit in the same spot.
Yep.
So they're all engineered to go in that same exact spot where the Monkey would find its motor, where the Dax 125 would find its motor, where the Trail 125 would find its motor. All these things use the same configuration, and every possible permutation of
Bolt holes won't be gone.
But and also, like, if you get a motor that's designed to be a certain size, because what happens when you start tuning things? What goes down?
Right.
Reliability goes down,
absolutely,
and
yeah.
performance goes up. So you got to make that balance.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that rather than trying to re-engine your motor with a 1972 CB350 motor, which is going to have its own problems, just you know what it's like having a 1972 350.
See if you can buy a high output crate motor for it.
Why not? Right. But the first place I would say would get on every Chinese 250cc clone forum. And then just say, has anybody found, what are you people doing for power mods? Now, shit, there might be people in the Janus community that have already nailed this thing.
True.
Without going into names, we all know the name, but there was a company that we know sold a motorcycle that would get beat hands down all day long by a Buddy 125, and it had 250 cc's. But the people who bought that bike, based on a fantasy and a charlatan, right? Within a short period of time, they had two options. Sell the bike for a shit ton less than they paid for it, because nobody wanted to buy it. Or, let's fuck with it. Let's just turn it into a hobby. Let's put a cylinder kit on it. Let's figure it out.
Let's fix all the broken welds.
Well, look, but there was a guy in particular in Philadelphia that I remember that was doing nothing but, you mail me your bike, I'll re-engine it, or I'll re-engineer it and give it back to you, and it will go 80 miles an hour, right? It'll go 85 miles an hour. Because all he was doing was replacing the top end, replacing the head, and that's basically not a long walk from the motor that's in your Janus right now. So I have to believe that's at a delightful level of Chinese lowest bidder interchangeability with your bike, with your engine and your bike. So that's kind of where I'd probably go, because you don't want it to go 90 miles an hour.
Right. That's what. So like with the Benelli 135, there was a guy on a Facebook group I was on, real smart guy, and he did. I mean, he wasn't a hacker either. He was like all his stuff was machined and well done, but he was putting 450s in the TNT 135. Yeah. And what he quickly discovered is, yes, it was a Hoonigan bike.
Yeah.
But you couldn't really go over 85 because then it became fucking unmanageable. It was just fucking nuts. Yeah.
I like just ripping your old motor completely out and putting it in a box. That way, you don't have to worry about trashing your original motor.
That's
you
right.
can always put it back in. Then you just go from there. You don't want to cut your frame or anything.
No.
So that's another good reason why you want to just try to go with an off-the-shelf clone of whatever motor you have.
And I love that his bike is his bike. Anything you want to do to it, it's your project. And there isn't a museum waiting for it in Georgia, right? Like, it's your bike. You own it. And so
you take that clone motor out and hole a piston or something happens to it, oh well.
Well, and
you can throw your old motor back in, or you can buy another one.
Well, and Pete rode their Trail 90s with Piranha 140 motors in them all over the goddamn country. And at no
they
point
blew up, they just replaced the motor.
Exactly. Right. Something horrible happens, it's going to cost you $748 out of pocket, and our friend Jack will mail you another one. You know?
Overnight if you want.
I know. So that's kind of fun. But I think you did a further.
Does that answer your question, Chris? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Yeah.
How about a joke?
Oh shit!
Got nothing.
Oh, man.
Wow.
I got no jokes.
Brazier.
I lost my left ear.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, that's weird.
I had lost mine
All
a
right.
while ago.
I didn't.
So but that's a pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty good endeavor. The idea of
Pull my finger.
re-engineing that.
Come on.
You and Sleepy should be next to
Yeah,
each other.
fuck you guys.
All right, little Johnny.
Uh-oh.
Little Johnny's at school. Brings his report card home. Straight F's. His parents have a long talk with him, so you better do better. Next semester, comes back, straight F's. So, okay, fuck this. We're taking you down. Putting you in the Catholic school. Next grading period, Johnny comes back, straight A's. I said, Jesus Christ, what the hell happened? He says, I walked into that place. They had a guy nailed to a plus sign. I thought they're not fucking around here.
And on that note, jeez,
That's fucking great.
They're serious about their math.
They're very serious about their fucking math for sure. We've got, by the time you guys listen to this podcast, our Distinguished Gentleman Ride's going to be over unless we get weird weather on Sunday.
Yeah, what are we doing in case of rain, by the way?
We're going to do it the following weekend.
Right now, we're at 93% chance of rain.
So
let's
Oh, is it during the day? I thought it was like that night.
No.
what?
Hold on. No, he's talking about the
Saturday
rain.
night.
Oh,
Look, okay.
No, the rain's coming during the day.
First thing, I don't care how big your Dick Goddard is. You cannot tell me
it's
Sunday's forecast today.
it could snow.
No, I mean
This is Cleveland in May.
their prediction today on the whatever said that the rain was going to come Saturday night,
Right.
and then it would be blow through fast because it's a cold front or something.
Right. So Saturday right now, so this has already changed. This has changed in the past hour. They're calling for 60% chance of thunderstorms and rain on Saturday and 70% on Sunday.
Oh, really?
Right. With also some rain on Friday too. Yeah. So that's a system, right? And so either the system's going to be like hanging around or the system's going to haul ass. But we all know here that when the powers that be in Australia changed the DGR from the end of September till the middle end of May, for them, their likelihood of good weather got a lot better. Our likelihood of good weather got a lot worse because
September is usually
for us it's pretty reliable, but here in our part of the world, where more recently, April showers don't bring May flowers. It's May showers perpetually. And then all of a sudden a switch flips and it's 85 degrees and roast your ass off. So
May showers bring tulips on my organ.
What's better than April showers?
On the bright side, I got all my potatoes and my corn in today.
Right, exactly. Jeez. Yeah.
It was dry.
Did you get that black plastic I dropped off?
Yeah. But I got the Speedex running.
So
nice.
Yeah.
So I had my potato plow. I didn't have to
how's
dig
it going to get called?
So how it's going to get called is I'm going to call it. And because the way we're doing the event is that we're going to be meeting at the Crawford Auto Museum at 10-ish, and then we'll be there like 10-ish until 1-ish. And so we're going to be at the Crawford 10 to 1. Now, what I'm planning on doing is I will probably be at the Crawford, rain or shine, because I can do the Crawford and everything I want to do at the Crawford, rain or shine. Now, if it's raining fucking sideways at 8:30 in the morning, we're done. We're not doing it. Because the thing with the gentleman's ride is what do? We dress up. So nobody's wearing their Tourmaster. Nobody's wearing their Aero Stitch to the fucking DGR. And most people are not wearing a helmet because they're wearing their flat dapper riding cap or whatever the fuck bowler hat or whatever they want to wear, which is fine. I have no problem with that. We're not a helmet state. But if it's going to be raining, especially if it's going to be raining all day, well, then that takes away one of the elements of the whole DGR, which is that seeing everybody dressed up all silly, like dressed up.
So then you're going to call it?
We'll call it and we'll move it to the next weekend.
Can you involve a small animal to help the call? Like, like a groundhog?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Good. That'd be good.
Yeah. You know what? I'll just...
the DGR beaver.
You know what?
A ferret. There you go. Get a ferret over there.
Here's what we'll do. I promise that you guys know. Yeah. Anybody who knows me for any period of time knows that every Sunday morning I check my beaver.
Yeah. It's true.
And if the beaver's wet,
You're gonna call it off.
We're gonna call the TGR. We're gonna put it off for a week.
Yeah.
So if there's a wet beaver Sunday morning at my house,
If it's a dusty beaver, all's good.
if the beaver's dry, we're gonna ride. But a good wet beaver, we're not riding.
Yeah.
Where's Unkie Phil? Well, I think the beaver must have been wet this morning.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So that's the way. I think that's the way we'll call it.
Okay.
So we'll put it out. But I think that all of us here are, adult enough and kind of. We don't have to put like a week's worth of effort into the DGR. No. Right. I mean, that's it. Hey, John, can you reach down next to you and pick up one of those folded pieces of green paper? Oh, no. There should be some that are folded. Maybe not.
Wow, Steve, he takes direction well. You must really enjoy him at work.
Anyway. Well,
he's all right.
There were some ones that I had pre-cooked. I don't know where they got off to. Well, but I had made a couple of samples. But yeah, so this is our like, check it out. This is there's two of these, but everybody's going to get a little passport.
Yeah, that's not a passport.
Inside the passport.
That's a cub.
It's a passport.
Oh.
A passport and a cub are the same thing.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Way to go, American. Idiot. Yeah. Hey, I'm an American. The world revolves around me. That's not a passport. Oh.
It's not a cub. What is
What's
a cub?
about that?
They didn't import cubs
Cut
in
his
the
toe off.
United States. That's not a toe.
It's got an electric starter, man.
like that.
There's nothing
It
super
doesn't have
about
turn
that
lights on it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a game where you have to tippy toe.
Yeah, there you go, Twinkle Toes. Did you hear about Steve's foot?
No, I didn't.
It got towed away.
I
Well, it's not
No,
the
my
fucking
buddy
ballet.
asked. He did.
His wife's gonna wait to kiss him under the missing toe.
If he doesn't pay for his doctor bill, he's going to get retowed.
That's what my buddy said when I got home, and I said something about it. He's like, "Oh, did you get a tow truck for that?"
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah, we're gonna get some miles out of that one. I think a little bit, maybe just a little bit. So that's about it. Oh wait, I did have one more message from a Patreon listener. I did want to honor by reading his message to the group. Hey, did you know the Misfits are going to have their 500th podcast in December?
Wow,
it's pretty cool.
Congratulations.
Hey, they have a challenge on their Misfits thing. They're taking $1,000. You know, they gave people $1,000 if they could sit on a motorcycle for like a day and a half.
Yeah.
That's saying nothing, but maybe people are, maybe Misfits got some extra Patreon money they're trying to get rid of.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, they're trying to give away $1,000 of their Patreon money to a worthy cause. And the number one cause right now that people are, calling in, go to your website, Motorcycles and Misfits.
Moto podcast.
Yeah, they're trying to buy more talent for Cleveland Moto Podcast. So,
it's going to take more than $1,000. I'll tell you that.
But I think this is hilarious because the one that is winning of the causes, of the noble causes that they want to donate money to, the one that's currently got the most votes is Moto Go.
Oh, good.
Oh, okay.
So Moto Go,
yeah.
Cleveland, Ohio, Moto Go. That is literally a program. You guys look up Moto Go, MOTOGO, right? I'm very proud to have started a tradition in America of things like Cleveland Moto, and there's Richmond Moto, and there's all these motos, and so Moto Go. And Moto Go they have a trailer, and they have docents, they have people that are trainers. And Emmy, who used to work for us, she's a trainer.
Yeah.
And they go to the schools where the kids haven't had a shop class since Christ was a private, and they bring out CB350s and let these kids unfuck them.
Well, and they also, so when Skidmark moved to the new place, they, on the third floor of that building, they have an actually established classroom now where they have like all the tools and all the stuff, and like, it was me and Dan went up there when we went and went to the Skidmark grand opening, and it's like straight up, like they put a lot of effort into it. It's really cool. Like the first time I ever looked, and they have the whole wiring harness of a CB350 laid out on a thing that shows you how it all goes, and
it lets you understand.
You stole it.
I might need
it lets you understand where the electricity goes.
Right.
And if you can think, it helps you, if you help to think of electricity like water, right? You can literally kind of go for that.
Yeah, but it was really, they laid it out. It's really nice now. It's really, really cool.
It is
Not that
really
it
nice.
wasn't before, but it's like they definitely upgraded.
All right. So who here in their life has ever looked at the side of a early 70s Honda 350 motor?
Yeah.
All right. Everybody noticed that about halfway up on the motor, there's this dark stripe? Right around that area that area we call the head gasket.
Okay, yeah.
And there's always a pot. The whole motor's nice and dry because the motors are pretty oil tight. Except for there's this one stripe along the side of the motor. And it's always a little wet there. And it may be wetter than, a little bit wet or a lot wet, right?
I've seen that on 750s too.
Oh, I think I've seen it on every single Honda motor ever. Even on some Honda lawnmower engines, right? And
It's pretty normal.
Thank you. Yeah, right? So our one of our podcast listeners sent in a picture of his Honda SL350, which we all like SL350s around here. We all think they're pretty cool. But he sends a picture of his SL350 cylinder head, right? Yeah. And of course, it has the damp spot. It has the damp line on the side. And here's what he says. And, here we go. So there's a Royal Enfield giving you the exact same symptom. That's just because it was a Royal Enfield. That's not anything. That has nothing to do with Honda.
They didn't sand it flat.
Right. That one didn't leave the factory in one piece. But so this thing, this symptom that we see on a whole lot of Honda engines, right? So he says, hey, this is John. My 71 SL350 appears to be leaking oil very slowly from where the head meets the cylinder sleeve. Should I be concerned? He says, by the way, the podcast is on a hot streak. Several great episodes in a row, even better than usual. So, and he puts up a cool picture of his SL350. Pretty badass.
I might shit myself.
Okay, yeah. So here's the thing, John. Have you ever, in your history of taking apart Honda motors, have you ever taken apart a Honda motor just to fix that leak?
No, I never would. I mean, I've seen it on lots of them. I mean, it just happens over time. It is a gasket, and eventually it's under quite a lot of pressure. It's going to force some oil through there. The worst I've ever seen was on a CB350, and if you power wash the motor off and you got up really close while it was running, you could actually see little air bubbles popping through it.
Yep.
That was the worst one I seen. And what I did with that one was I started it up. I let it. While it was bubbling, I shut it off, and then I cleaned it off really good with carb cleaner.
Yeah.
And I took some engine paint and I went and painted that whole little edge around there, and let the paint, as it cooled down, suck into the gasket.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And it actually fixed the problem.
It did.
Sure, yeah.
So I have for customers.
I've changed. There have been other bikes, not Hondas, where you've had to do a head gasket.
Right.
Uh,
Yamaha Maxims and stuff like that were kind of notorious for that. And
They
stuff,
were.
like in the front of the motor, but
Yeah, but so as far as I'm concerned, every Honda motor from the mid '60s until the early '80s, this was a known thing. This was just a thing, and it has very little to do with how many miles they have. It has everything to do with how old they are. And the older the motor and the less miles on it, the more likely they are to be weeping at that head gasket seal.
because those aren't like cometic gaskets with rubber or anything. They're kind of like a paper.
They're oiled paper.
They're
oiled paper gaskets.
kind of shit.
And I had a customer a few years ago that had a particularly perfect CB350. I mean, fucking perfect. As clean as the one you got. And it was beautiful, except for it would weep. And it would weep enough that there'd be black coming down the cylinder, down the barrel. And so it was not just darkening the area. There was an accumulation there. And so it bothered the fuck out of them. And I told him, I was like, look, it runs great. The bike runs solid. There's no questions. It's giving you all a CB350 can give you. It's only got about 5,000 miles on it. Just run it. And he couldn't leave well enough alone. So he decided that he was going to fix it himself. And he did. And I had never seen a motor leak so much after he'd fixed it. So he could have left well enough alone, in which case there was never a drop of oil that made it to the lower cases. By the time the oil would get low enough on the cylinders that it would just evaporate out. So it never made it like this one here in the picture that I'm showing you right now. It kind of looked like that. It was just, they were moist where that gap is. So yeah, that's really fucking common. Go after it at your own peril. Remember Leviticus 2:17. That which Honda hath joined, let no mere mortal unjoin. Yep. Right? Because what happens?
I walk through the valley of death.
Yeah, I mean,
fucking with the motor.
Yeah.
Just understand the problem too is like you can't fix that without pulling the motor out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and if you do so, pull
Yep.
the motor out and take it apart.
Yep.
At that point, you might as well just do sort of a top end refresh.
You got it.
And just do a whole new gaskets from the bottom end up. Yep. And it's not impossible or even really that difficult. You just have to be careful.
It doesn't just exist in Hondas. There's the Suzuki dual overhead cam Suzuki sitting there with the same black stripe of shame.
Or no, more than that. So on my 850, one, it like those two little, like right where the the cams are.
Yeah.
You'll just get a little bit of weeping that comes down off those things. But you know what? You got oil at that point.
And then you can replace it with like a cometic gasket, which won't leak. Which is
And that's right. And so if you are going to go there, if John makes it perfectly clear, if you are going to make that decision, you do not put the same factory Honda paper gasket in there. If you buy the standard gasket kit, so we all know the standard Honda gasket kit, it costs $38, and it's got a whole sling of paper gaskets in there, and there's some green paper gaskets, and there's some brown paper gaskets.
That's a Honda, if you can get a Honda kit, but mostly you see like the Visra or Versrai or whatever.
Vesra, yeah.
All kinds of stupid aftermarket old time.
Oh, yeah, you're not going to see. I'm going to go first tell you, you're not going to see a Honda brand. No. You're not going to see a Honda packaged, but you're probably going to see a Vesra. The Vesras are kind of the deal. And we all know, by the way, the guys who build a bunch of motors, we know where Vesra forgot to put the holes for the oil supplies so that we can. You put your Vesra gasket kit on, and you're like, I just blew my motor, and you're like, oh well, there's 2 little places on there where are oil journals, and if you don't punch the little holes in there, you're not going to get any oil to the top end of your motor. But Vesra doesn't tell you about that. But the way that Cometic does it is Cometic's gaskets are actually metal, and it's a multi-metal sandwich. So it's different types of metal stacked in on top of each other so that it makes a perfect seal. So it's a coated, rubberized metal that when you do put, this is a really good side view of a Cometic gasket.
Then they also have like O-ring glued, like silicone glued to it, into it, around all the holes and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Cometic is a company that's here in Cleveland. And when you see the way Cometic builds their gaskets, then you'll kind of like, from that point on in your life, you're like, I'm never going to put a standard paper gasket in another top end. If I'm going to go to the trouble of rebuilding this fucking thing, let me spend $40 more and put a Cometic gasket in it. And they really do work fucking fantastic.
Who was the first Cleveland gasket company?
Who was? I don't know. Is
Mr. Gasket?
Mr. Gasket, I would assume, right? Yeah, because that's a Cleveland company, Mr. Gasket.
Huge.
Yeah, big deal. Yeah. And did Mr. Gasket get absorbed by TRW?
They got absorbed by somebody.
Yeah, I thought it was TRW. I think,
but they're right up there at 140th and Brook Park Road.
Exactly. Yeah, and like that's a company that people don't remember was a Cleveland company. Like we talk about Super Trap and we talk about Weisco and we talk about Cometic. Well, these are all Cleveland companies.
And TRW, my dad worked there for 42 years.
TRW, the joke with TRW is what did TRW make? What didn't TRW make?
Right.
TRW made everything.
And their home base was in Pleasant Valley.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a really, my biological mom's family was all TRW people up in South Euclid. It's kind of that deal. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, so if you have a weeping head gasket on your old Honda motorcycle, don't freak the fuck out. Just relax. People say, oh, well, you can snug down the bolts. You can't. The bolts that you can get to are just the valve cover bolts. So unless you remove the valve covers, which on these motorcycles means you're dropping the engine, you can't really snug down.
If you pull the motor out, you might as well take it down.
Thank you. Exactly.
But it just makes it worse.
I agree.
Right.
I agree. We've never seen anybody successfully chase one of these problems away without doing a proper head gasket replacement. And if you're going to do that, then you better do the guides on your timing cam chain.
Or my hillbilly ass shit.
What's that?
My hillbilly shit.
I know somebody that has a CB400F Super Sport that's got about 58,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
And I literally just took my finger with Permatex.
Yeah.
And I used brake parts cleaner and got it all perfectly clean and dry the whole way around. I got the motor smoking hot. Yeah. And I took my finger with Permatex on it. And I did Permatex right around the seal.
Then paint silver over it.
And then I just let it dry. And I let it dry. And once it was dry, it stayed clean for a very long time. Yeah. So, but it was just an aesthetic thing because I checked all of my cylinders and I didn't have a single cylinder that was coming in with a low compression. Like you said, the one that you could actually see bubbles coming out of.
Yeah, but just tiny little bubbles.
Clearly, that's going to affect the performance of that bike.
No, it wouldn't. It was like just little tiny bubbles. You could see that's why.
So you probably wouldn't.
That's why it was getting oil. It was like these little tiny bubbles were just kind of going sizzling through the gasket.
Don Ho.
It was not a
tiny bubble.
It was not sucking and blowing through the gasket. It was just enough that little tiny bubbles were percolating.
When people call my shop, this happened the other day, and I felt like a grade A cunt for saying this to the guy. But the guy called me on the phone.
Said that a million
I believe
times.
Steve was here, and he's like, "I need you to tell me the jetting I need. I need you to tell me.
That was great.
Tell me the jetting I need for this particular cylinder kit on this particular motor with this particular pipe." And I was like, "Do you want me to jet your motorcycle over the phone?" No, I'm not asking for that.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. You're exactly asking me to jet your bike over the phone. So do me a favor. Can you walk your phone over to your motorcycle?
I like today when you asked a guy, "Have I met your car before?" or whatever.
Right. I've never even met your car. I don't know anything about it. And so I told the guys, like, look, every single engine is different. Every motor is different. And if we're talking about a 50-year-old motor, I don't care if it's only got 2,500 miles on it. That motor has 737 microscopic air leaks. Now, some of them are big air leaks. Some of them are tiny air leaks. Some of them are just at a gasket or at a seal or something that's really, really tiny. Others of them could be giant honking air leaks. But the point is, it does not have the same air-fuel mixture that it did when it left the factory. So any jetting that we do that one could consider would be for a perfectly brand new, perfectly built, fresh motor is going to be wrong. And if I tell you that your bike needs a 55 Pilot, 55-100 Pilot, a BE4 mixer, and a 120 main, and you put all that on, and you go out and put a hole in your piston, and say that guy Phil at ClevelandMoto is a piece of shit because his advice made me blow my motor. Well, no, dude, you blew your motor. That's not me. You asked for a recommendation that nobody can give you. Until you're doing the tuning, if you don't have an exhaust gas analyzer, and unless you're out there doing plug chops, and doing it the old-fashioned way.
I would say put a large enough main jet that when you give it full throttle, it goes blur, 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 and blubbers.
Right.
Then start backing down.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Go fat and then unfatten it. But the point is, don't call somewhere and expect a guy to give you a tuning recommendation, and you're like, oh, yeah, well, it's okay, though. I just rebuilt this motor. The guy who's calling me for a jetting recommendation told me he just rebuilt the motor. Yeah. That's going to be a shit show. That's going to be a mess.
Do you still have the same car? Maybe you still,
Who the fuck knows?
You still have the same exhaust.
Honestly,
I just built this whole motor. I put a new carb, a new exhaust, and a new motor. Well, I don't even know what you need.
Look, and not only that, I don't know what ignition you're running. I don't know what elevation you're at. I don't know what kind
All
of.
I'll tell you is whatever you have, put it about 4 sizes bigger.
Right. You know what? Go sloppy and then back it down carefully. That's exactly right. But asking for a jet, because remember, every motor in the goddamn world that isn't brand new is going to have little leaks in it. There's going to be some air leaks in it. So and also keep that in mind too. If you are putting some performance parts on your engine, that if the motor isn't a fresh brand new build by a really good builder, then you should always consider that this 20 or 30 or 40-year-old motor may have a little bit more air in it than you want it to be.
Yep.
And especially, so if you've put a new carb on, you put a new pipe on it, watch that fucker carefully for the first couple of 100 miles. If you see that spark plug keeps coming out and it's looking a little chalky, richen that shit up, man. Like,
I know you don't like Permatex much, but I like my gaskets. Even if it's just put it on your fingers and massage it in,
yeah.
A very thin coat really helps.
Well,
and it keeps oil from soaking through them and stuff like that.
And my trick has always been I use the Permatex spray.
That's good.
I love it costs, arguably, what does it cost? Who cares? You're buying one can and throwing it away. I use the Permatex spray and I hang my gaskets up and I spray them, because you spray the Permatex on it, fog it, hit it, and then put it on and build it, and then leave it alone. Just walk away from it. I know you're tempted to start it. Don't start it. Walk away. Give the thing literally 24 hours. Remember that every exhaust... Remember that it's fucking polluting the air over there.
That's a foul burning system.
You're running a little rich.
He's running it rich, but he also has an air leak.
The plug, dude. Totally.
But keep in mind, your motor's not built until you've heat cycled it. I'm done.
Shit show?
Fuck it, guys. Let them blow their motors up. I don't care. Your motor's not done being built until you've heat cycled it 5 times. Okay? So until you've heat cycled that motor 5 times and then re-snugged everything. Many modern engines, modern motors, Suzuki, for instance, will have a rule that says take an engine, a head bolt, take a cylinder stud, and take it to 14 foot-pounds, right? And then take it a quarter turn past that. Mm-hmm. Or it'll say take it to 18 foot-pounds, wait for a given period of time, and then take it another quarter turn.
I mean, when you talk about like
it's allowing for stretch,
V8 building and everything, they have gauges and stretches and like special bolts that stretch. I mean, like it's a science.
It's a big deal. It's a science. And when we've done that here at the shop, and I'll tell you, I've had more of them than I can count. A guy that rebuilds his engine and he's using the factory fucking studs. The guy doesn't want to spend the money to put new cylinder studs in. And I can measure this. You can measure all you need is a set of verniers. If you've got a set of verniers, you've got a gauge. You can measure the stud, and it will literally tell you how many threads there are supposed to be in a given distance. Mm-hmm. And you can tell very quickly whether or not a stud has been stretched. And yes, every time I pull apart a motor that's a leaky motor that doesn't work right, and I measure the studs, I'm like, these are the factory original studs, dude. You couldn't spend $26 to get 4 new studs for this motor? And you want me to, you put this thing together using the original factory studs that are in it and wonder why the fuck it's not holding together. Because
I always like to put a little Loctite where they go into the cases, too.
Fuck yeah. Oh, yeah.
Too, I mean, you're sitting there with you have a lock washer and a washer and everything on the top side. Yep. Meanwhile, where it screws into the aluminum, it's just screwed in. There's nothing stopping it from backing it out.
If you reuse your engine case, if you reuse your engine studs, your cylinder studs, and you're going into a, quote, pot metal set of cases.
Oof. Oh, yeah. You stretched your threads, too, probably.
You may go all the way through.
Yeah.
We've seen that more than once. So people take they're going to re-cylinder the motor. They're going to put a new cylinder on, and they'll take the factory studs out. They'll set them aside. They'll put a new barrel and piston on, what have you. All this care went into buying a new barrel and piston and everything else, but not studs. Well, they take the old studs and they run them in. But what they don't realize is those studs only have maybe 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, using English measurements, of case material prior to punching through into the bottom end of the motor. Mm-hmm. And it's very easy when you're double nutting the top of the stud to run those studs in, to just be like, okay, in. And you're like, oh, you're expecting, when I hit 14 foot-pounds, I'll back off. Well, you're never going to hit 14 foot-pounds on the original studs, because the new stud that's going in there is engineered to give you resistance as it goes in. And the old stud isn't. And you can blow out the bottom of those stud holes and wonder why, when you put your head on, you don't have enough threads, because all the threads are in the bottom of your case. You're like, wait a second. Did I order, wait, my old studs got shorter? Yeah. No, your old studs didn't get shorter. They're in the bottom of your crank right now. Don't start that motor. But that happens. And we've seen it where a motor's running and it's punching engine oil out the bottom between the case and the cylinder. And you're like, get the fuck out of here. How the hell did that happen? I can tell you how that happened. Yeah. So just be careful with that kind of stuff. If you haven't done it, buy a book, read a book, talk to a guy that builds engines or something like that. Most of the stuff, it's pretty damned easy.
Don't get all your information from the podcast.
Oh my God, no. Don't get all your... Because half of the shit we're talking about is very easy to visualize in the world of 2 strokes. Mm-hmm. But if we change that into 4 strokes, a lot of it changes.
Allegedly.
Maybe it was a sick ostrich. All right, that's all I got, man. Anybody got anything else?
No.
Fuck it. Ride fast and take chances. Play us out, John.
Bum 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 bum
Ride fast, take chances. Ride fast, take chances. Ride fast, take chances. Ride fast, take chances. Ride fast, take chances.